Chapter 231. Ingjuren didn't know who the sect leader Elder and Mrs. Sanhua were, but he knew that the two demons in front of him were more trustworthy and safer than the group of Daoist priests outside the city. He was a warrior in the secular world and lived an ordinary life when he was young. He had also heard about how scary and sinister demons were. But now, at this moment, he didn't even know when it started. He had actually walked together with the demons. With this thought, he woke up Yu Meng and the others and told them about the situation just now, but not for the time being. He could only say that when the group of them followed the rat spirit and the rabbit spirit to see the Zhongling elder and the Sanhuan Yang, Ingjuren's mind was restless from beginning to end. The rabbit spirit looked like a teenager, but his temperament was also like a teenager. His face was blushing when he spoke, but soon he became familiar with him and became a chatterbox. He was the first one who came into contact with Ingjuren, so he felt very close to him. When outsiders looked at Ingjuren, they only felt that he was a dangerous person with black clothes and a black blade and a cold face. But first, this rabbit spirit didn't know much about worldly affairs. Second, as a demon, why would he be afraid of the warriors in the secular world? So he pestered Ingjuren and talked to him. Ingjuren had something on his mind, so he didn't want to talk to him. But the rabbit spirit talked a lot. For example, his junior sister Qiao Jiasen sensed the smell of people from the same sect in the forest after she took shape, so she rushed over. He also talked about how he and his senior brother went through a lot of hardships to escape to this place after the Taoist priests came to the city of Wei, and how he met his own sect leader elder, Mrs. Sanhua. Since he said it like this, Ingjuren listened. He was curious and fresh. Who wouldn't be curious about demons and ghosts? Walking in the forest was also boring, so he slowly started to talk to the rabbit spirit. The rat spirit in front didn't stop him when he talked to the rabbit spirit. He only glanced back once before continuing on his way, as if he was also listening. Ingjuren knew that the eldest senior apprentice brother might also be looking at his background. So he thought of something else to ask. First he asked where Qiao Jiasen was. He was told that he was injured and kept in his eldest senior brother's sleeve. He then asked the group of people where they were going, but the rabbit demon hemmed and hawed. It seemed that their hiding place had to be kept a secret. He then asked if Li Yunqing was around. The rabbit demon had a distressed look on his face. He only said that his great king had fought with some Daoist priests that day, and after that he disappeared without a trace. He also said that after the soldiers came to the city of Wei, they hunted down the demons in the vicinity. Once they saw them, they wouldn't care if they were people who committed evil or good deeds. They would capture and kill them all. Ingjuren thought of the demons he saw outside of Wei City that were being used to draw the formation. They were probably the ones that the rabbit demon was talking about. The rabbit demon said that in this way many of the earth gods, mountain gods, water gods, all kinds of small gods' positions around the city of Wei were empty. When Ingjuren heard this, he also clicked his tongue in wonder in his heart. Only then did he realize that those gods were actually demons causing mischief. Then when he heard that demons ate humans and harmed people, and that mountain gods and water gods did good deeds, weren't they just one-sided stories? When the rabbit demon said this, he felt a little angry. He said that those positions were empty, but the foolish people didn't know and still worshipped them every day. But what were they worshipping? They were just clay statues without any spiritual qi. He said that they should occupy those positions and show their divinity, now that the dragon cult was gone and all the followers were dead. The Daoist priests in the city declared that the dragon cult was an evil cult. Even if someone said something like, "Enjoy immortal happiness forever and live as long as heaven," it would be reported. They couldn't get the power of faith, so they should go there to receive the prayers of those foolish people. The rat demon heard this and turned his head to glare at his junior brother. He said, "Aren't you courting death by doing those things now? And the king isn't here. If you act recklessly and mess up the king's plan, you'll be in trouble." The rabbit demon seemed to be afraid of his senior brother. He shrunk his neck and didn't say anything. Ingjuren couldn't help but ask, "Your king hasn't been heard from for a long time. Aren't you afraid that he's already dead?" Hearing this, the rat demon and the rabbit demon turned their necks to look at him at the same time. At this moment, Ingjuren realized that he was talking to demons. And his words seemed to be too abrupt. Because one of the two demons was leading the way and the other was walking beside him. After hearing his words, the head of the rat spirit in front of him turned 180 degrees. He was still walking as usual, but his face was behind him, staring straight at him. The rabbit demon's face also turned 90 degrees, but his body didn't move at all, also staring at him. Ingjuren knew that these two demons were going to get angry. He was shocked and scared. But he was a martial artist after all, so he didn't show any of it on his face. He just held the hilt of the knife tightly. Then he heard the two demons showing a mysterious smile on their faces at the same time. It was as if he was an experienced martial artist who heard a young martial artist say something he didn't understand. He smiled and said, "Hey young man, you still need to learn more about this." Ingjuren didn't know what this meant. But listening to the weird tone and the two demons almost said it at the same time, maybe they learned the catchphrase from someone. Maybe it was that Li Yunxin. The rabbit demon continued, "What kind of person is our king? Do you know what he was like when he first came to the city of Wei? What happened after 2 months? Now that he has disappeared, anyone with a little common sense will know." The rat demon solemnly continued, his voice calm and unquestionable. "Our king is playing a big game of chess again. We just need to listen to his orders." After saying this, they turned around and continued walking. It was as if everything they said before was just a casual chat. Only this matter was not to be doubted. Ingjuren heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. He turned to look at Yu Meng, Wu Su and Lily behind him. The three of them and the others were more seriously poisoned. At this moment they were in low spirits and could barely follow the group. They didn't even have the energy to talk. The two girls originally wanted to carry their little swords and stare like tigers watching their prey, afraid that someone would harm their young master. But now they didn't even bother to carry their swords. It was almost hanging in their hands. The swords cut through the branches of the plants, making clanking sounds. Ingjuren didn't know if what he and the two demons had said just now had entered their hearts. But after talking for so long, they were considered to be familiar with each other. He asked the question that he wanted to ask the most. The question that had been hidden in his heart. "Thinking about what happened just now, it should have been your junior sister Qiao Jiasen who wanted to find you. But along the way you accidentally entered the colorful spider's lair and got caught." Ingjuren pretended to say it casually. It sounded as if he was trying to ease the awkward atmosphere just now. "Then we chased after her, but we were also drugged by the colorful spiders, right?" "Yes." The rabbit demon said, "We were in that area and our cultivation wasn't high. We practiced the divine heart technique passed down by our king. How could that demon compare to us? Junior sister Jessen was also a beginner. If she had time to consolidate her realm, she would have been able to turn that demon's lair upside down." Ingjuren heaved a sigh of relief in his heart and continued to ask, "Since it was by accident, those demons shouldn't have known my name. Do you know of any way to make me tell them my name?" The rabbit demon blinked. "There are many ways to make people tell the truth. Hanging them up and beating them up is also the truth. As for magic, I don't know much about it, but my eldest senior brother knows one. As for that demon, she doesn't practice any magic, so how would she know any skills? She was born with some supernatural ability, but she just used it to bewitch you. What you see is what you want to see in your heart, and she changed it accordingly. As for what she could make you say, if you didn't say it, then you didn't say it." After listening to his explanation, Ingjuren was a little silent. But he clearly remembered that not long after he saw the stone tablet, an old man who claimed to be the lord of the land walked out of the forest and welcomed him. At first he knew that something was wrong and held the hilt of his knife tightly. But then a woman pecked him on the back of his neck and he was drugged, brought to the Pearl Kingdom. Then, when he was still conscious, the old man called him Young Master Ing. How did the old man know his surname? Ordinary people rarely encountered being drugged by demons. Even if he encountered it today, those demons all had supernatural powers that ordinary people couldn't understand. There were many things that couldn't be explained clearly, so he just took it as a supernatural power. He could see a magical country without any reason, so why would he bother about the illogical details? But the reason why Ingjuren was like this was because the old man left a deep impression on him. The rabbit demon said that maybe it was because he was hallucinating from the spider's poison, so he made up a non-existent old man. But in his Pearl Kingdom, this old man was almost an important figure throughout the whole thing. How could he be made up? He still remembered the old man's words in the army. This Pearl Kingdom suffered from the invasion of the Two Feng Kingdom, but instead of thinking about how to expel those people, they accepted their fate. Now that they were attacked, they wanted to fight back. Unfortunately, they were also in a mess. It was hard to tell who was friend and foe, so they could only set up a target for themselves. It was really funny and pitiful. These words seemed to be talking about the Pearl Kingdom. But it wasn't about the Pearl Kingdom. It seemed to be referring to something, but he couldn't figure it out. It was like a shadow firmly entangled in Ingjuren's thoughts. No matter what he did, he couldn't concentrate. No matter what he thought of, he would always think of this paragraph, like a maggot attached to the bone. He began to understand that this matter was unusual. The others didn't see the old man in a dream, only he. The others didn't have their surnames called out, they were just fascinated when they stepped on the grass. Then the scenes in front of them flashed by, only he remembered clearly, and he was loved by the queen of colorful spiders. Ingjuren didn't say anything and just quietly hurried on. The rabbit demon talked to himself for a while and also felt bored. But he was only a demon that had been in human form for a few months. Although he could be considered to be eloquent in speech, he wasn't as alert as humans. He just thought that Ingjuren was tired, so he didn't pay attention to him anymore. He turned to the front to pester his senior brother, and the two of them whispered something. Soon they arrived at their destination. It was already past noon and the sunlight wasn't very strong. When they arrived at the forest, it was even darker. Ingjuren saw a dense fog in the forest in front of them, lingering between every branch and leaf. The rat demon and rabbit demon stopped, turned around and said solemnly, "We're here." The group stopped and listened to him quietly. The rabbit demon wasn't anxious. He looked at them and said, "You saved my junior sister Jessan, so you must have angered those Daoists in the city. Those Daoists aren't good people, they're powerful and narrow-minded. Right now they must be chasing after you. You're all secular people, you don't have the ability to protect yourselves. Then in this forest." He looked at Ingjuren, "This is the only place that can accommodate you. There were stinky Daoists who came here a few times before, but they were stupid, they couldn't find anyone or any path after entering the fog, so they could only go back. Now that you've entered this fog, you'll be able to see my sect's leader, Elder Mrs. Sanhua. It's just that, although it's safe inside. But think carefully, it's hard to come out for a while. Even if the leader and Mrs. Sanhua want to come out, it'll be extremely difficult." Ingjuren, who was the only one with a clear mind, thought for a while and his expression changed slightly. "What you mean is that your leader, Elder Mrs. Sanhua, is actually trapped in this fog? She can't come out?" The rabbit demon blinked and looked at his senior brother. The rat demon smiled slightly. "You can say that. But if you're not willing to go, you'll have to spend the night in the forest. You're not god demon cultivators like us, you'll always be sick. If someone encounters this, do you have anyone who can cure them?" Ingjuren had already made up his mind not to enter this dense fog. He was after all a martial artist and he was quite famous. Although he was worried about his own safety, although it was dangerous in the forest, he still had a chance to fight. If he really couldn't, he could still try to escape. But if he entered this fog, it would be as if he was trapped and at the mercy of others. That was not good. He cupped his hands and said seriously, "Thank you for your kindness." Then he pointed behind him. "We have to consider these things when we're in the martial world. Therefore some of my people are proficient in medicine and they've brought medicine with them. If they're really sick, I can't say that the medicine will cure them, but it'll definitely be better than ordinary doctors." But after he said this, he suddenly realized that he seemed to have done something wrong. Because the rat demon and the rabbit demon looked at each other and the look in their eyes suddenly changed. Ingjuren frowned and felt that something was wrong. Just as he was about to retreat, he heard a demonic voice coming from the fog. "Ah, doctor. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Throw me in. Come take a look at this old man's old lover's illness. Come take a look." Ingjuren felt that this voice was slightly familiar. But before he could think about it, the rat spirit chuckled and said, "That's for the best." Then he waved his big sleeves and a gust of demonic wind rose. Ingjuren's group of dozens of people were all swept into the fog and disappeared. Chapter 232. When he woke up again, he could only see the sky in all directions. The yellow sky was framed by the eaves, and there were broken tiles and weeds on the eaves. The grass grew wildly and the aerial roots leaked down from the top like a small waterfall. It was already dusk. Ingjuren frowned and tried to get up with his hands on the ground. He lay down in the courtyard. 2 of the 3 houses on the 4 sides were dilapidated, and the doors and windows were rotten. Only the house directly opposite looked livable, and was indeed livable. He saw a fire in the house. There used to be a stove in the house, but half of it had collapsed. Therefore the fire was not made in the stove but on the ground. There was a wooden frame on top of the fire, and a small earthen jar with a blackened bottom and chipped edges hung from the wooden frame. The jar seemed to be filled with water and it was already boiling. It gurgled. But Ingjuren took a while to realize that he smelled the fragrance coming from the jar. The smell was enough to make one salivate, not to mention that his stomach was rumbling with hunger. It took him a breath's time to move his eyes away from the jar, and see two people sitting in the shadows behind the fire. One of them was an old Daoist. He hadn't taken care of his hair and beard for a long time and they were tangled up. He wore a green Daoist robe and held a long ladle made from a piece of wood in his hand. He was looking into the jar. It seemed like he was worried about the bottom of the jar. The other. He didn't know whether it was because of the light or something else, but his skin was gray. However, this gray wasn't hateful. It was more like a blood-green color that seeped out from under the extremely white skin. He wore a red shirt and looked like a soldier who had just taken off his armor. There was indeed armor beside him. He was holding a strange-looking red helmet, and was carefully wiping it with a piece of cloth. Ingjuren looked for a while and recognized the woman. Wasn't it Mrs. Sanhua, that he and Meng Ao met in the alley that night? At this time he heard Lao Dao turn to Mrs. Sanhua and say, "Don't be angry. Although you speak highly, you are still a demon. If you want to talk about these things." He tapped the side of the jar with the ladle in his hand. However, he accidentally knocked off another piece and it fell into the jar. He hurriedly went over and carefully scooped up the broken pieces with a long ladle, and at the same time tasted the soup on the ladle. Then he sat back down and continued to say to Mrs. Sanhua, "These things you demons can't do. What did Brother Exon tell me before? Slow fire, less water. When the heat is enough, it will be beautiful. You have to simmer this thing slowly for it to be crispy, soft and fresh." The three flowers grew impatient. He threw away the cloth in his hand and shrieked, "Hey, this old man is so noisy. High quality meat, huh? Trembling, sparkling. I'm chewing a bag of blood. Humph, it's gone, it's all gone." She looked into the jar as she spoke as if she was extremely distressed. Lao Dao snorted. "You'll know when the time comes." After saying that, he ignored the three flowers. The three flowers also ignored him. Then he looked at Ingjuren, who was already standing in the courtyard. "Hero Ing, there's no need to look. The young master of the Yu clan and the two girls haven't been cured yet, so they've already been sent to the back to rest. Your people are also behind. Their cultivation isn't high, unlike the four of you who have powerful internal energy to protect their bodies, so it's hard to say if they can withstand the aftereffects of the spider's poison. There's no need to rush, don't worry." Lu Laodao waved his hand, twirled his beard and smiled. "There's a lack of doctors and medicine here, so I was hoping for the doctor you brought, but in the end your doctor also fell sick. So just stay here and keep this old man company. Whether you look or not, your people probably won't live past tonight. Hero Ing should know who I am. I'm Lu Gongzan. This is the first time we've met. My old friend, the man-killer fiend Meng Ao, should be in Hero Ying's castle." He might as well not say anything to comfort him. Hearing this, Ingjuren became even more anxious. After all, they were all people from the castle. They've known each other for a long time and they're all trusted aides. If they all died now, it would be a huge loss. But Ingjuren was also a person who knew how to read people's expressions. He discovered that Lu Laodao's expression and tone were a bit strange. A bit guarded and vigilant. He composed himself, glanced at Black Blade who was lying on the ground next to him and cupped his hands. "Ghost teller Lu Gongzan. I've heard of your name for a long time. Then you have something to ask me." In front of Li Yunxin, Lu Laodao was like a kind elder, a loyal old servant. Now that Li Yunxin wasn't here and he was talking to Ingjuren alone, the Jianghu aura that had been hidden for a long time had unexpectedly returned. He sat behind the bonfire, the firelight reflecting on his face. It looked like he had really recovered the demeanor of the ghost teller in the past, appearing unfathomable and hard to distinguish between good and evil. He was seen laughing and took out a piece of firewood from the bonfire in front of him, to make the fire smaller. Then he raised his eyes and asked, "My Dragon King asked Hero Ing to bring people to Wei City. I know about this. Hero Ing really came this time. It shows that he is a man of his word. Dragon King must be happy. But there is one thing I don't understand." Mr. Lu, please speak. You met Jessin outside the city and rescued her. My two friends outside had already told me what had happened. After listening, I admired Hero Ying's chivalry and courage. But Hero Ying snatched someone from the hands of Taoist Dao Tong, yet he was unharmed. Not only are you unscathed, but your subordinates are also unscathed. On this point Lao Dao doesn't quite understand. Lu Gongzan looked at him with bright eyes. What did Hero Ying say? Ying Juren was silent for a while, then he sneered, there is nothing to say. There are many reasons why he was unharmed. The Taoist had a lot of demons in his hands, so he didn't care. The Taoist was afraid that he would delay setting up the array, so he didn't catch up. I think any one of them is reasonable. After all, he is an immortal, not a secular person. But if Mr. Lu is suspicious, even if the Taoist is standing here and telling you the whole story, you will still be suspicious. Lu Gongzan stroked his beard and smiled. Hero Ying is right. But Dragon King said that he never believes in coincidences and unusual things. Seeing that he has been doing things for a long time, Lao Dao also thought so. Therefore this is what I think. At this point he restrained his expression and waved to Ying Juren. Hero Ying, come in and have a seat. It's getting late and it looks like it's going to rain. Ying Juren hesitated for a while, then picked up the black knife on the ground and walked into the house. It was a coincidence. As soon as he entered the house, the wind started blowing outside. The tiles on the roof made a slight sound and the weeds lowered their heads. Within 2 breaths, there were bean-sized raindrops falling down. After another breath, the wind had already rushed in with the curtain of rain, causing the dust on the ground to fly up. But when Lu Gongzan took out a talisman from his sleeve, he muttered an incantation, and the wind in the hall suddenly weakened, turning into a comfortable breeze. Ying Juren was slightly stunned. He only knew that Lu Gongzan used to be in the Jianghu, but he did not expect him to be proficient in Dao, to such an extent. But after being stunned for a while, he felt that he could not lose his momentum. He picked up a piece of wood that had not been chopped into firewood and sat down, saying, "This is also a coincidence. What do you think, Mr. Lu?" He looked at the curtain of rain outside. The wind had turned into a small tornado in the courtyard. The raindrops were rolled up by the tornado, turning into a bright white whirlpool, pouring down on the ground and the roof. The tiles fell with a clatter as if the 3 rooms were about to collapse. Lu Gongzan laughed again. This is not a coincidence. You should know when you came it's easy to come in but hard to get out. In fact, we were trapped here by an expert. I don't know what the expert is thinking, but I don't think he has any evil intentions. Because of this, the weather here is abnormal and it's not rare to see a storm like this. It's normal to see fist-sized hailstones, plums, fish and meat falling from the sky. Let's not talk about this for now, let's talk about Hero Ying. Lu Gongzan did not care about how surprised Ying Juren looked. What Lao Dao was thinking is that Hero Ying and his party just happened to meet young Master Yu. They just happened to meet Zhou Xian outside the city. Coincidentally, those Taoist priests had something to do and did not chase after them. These coincidences are a bit too much. If you ask me, I would be wary of the Taoist priests using you as bait. My Dragon King. Outsiders say he's cruel, but he's actually very warm. What he says may not be what he thinks, I know that. If you, young Master Yu and Zhou Xian went to him, it would be hard for him to reject you. A few days ago I received news that Dragon King is trapped in some kind of restrictive spell. Daodong's people wanted to rush in, but they could not do anything to Dragon King. Because of this matter, I feel that those Taoist priests are planning to do this. Lu Laodao sighed slightly, stirring the earthen pot with the long ladle in his hand, and a wave of fragrance spread out. Not far away, Sanhua smelled it and immediately widened her eyes. But she seemed to remember that Lao Dao had bickered with her before, so she looked at it reluctantly and turned her head away. That's why I brought you here. Lu Laodao looked at Ying Juren. This place is also a restrictive spell. There's only a small world here. There's this courtyard and it's on the cliff. If you walk further out, you'll be surrounded by fog. If you walk in, you'll walk back. If you're outside, you'll either go to my Dragon King and cause him a dilemma. If you can't find him, maybe you'll be killed by the Taoist priests. Although we don't know when we'll be able to get out after coming in, outsiders won't dare to come here easily. This is something that we can do for Dragon King. We won't cause him trouble at this critical juncture. Ying Juren took a deep breath and looked at Lu Laodao. Previously when I was outside I said what might happen to that Li Yunxin. The two outside only told me that he has a big plan and that there's no need to worry. Now that I've heard what you said, it seems that Mr. Lu isn't very optimistic about your Dragon King's situation. If he really isn't optimistic in the future, won't we be trapped here until we die? There's no such thing as a perfect plan in this world. Lu Laodao smiled. Now that I've made things clear to you, I'm telling you to be at ease. You're a martial artist who doesn't know any Daoist techniques, so you'll never be able to get out. Don't do unnecessary things. The other thing is to wait, to see if someone will come. If someone comes, it means that what I'm thinking is true and you're indeed bait. If the Taoist orthodoxy uses you, the secular people, as bait, then we don't have to worry about the Dragon King's situation. That means that the Taoist orthodoxy is completely helpless against the inhibition that protects him and has to resort to this. Come. We've talked for so long, let's eat something. My wife is ill and this is the only thing that can make up for her. Lu Laodao stood up after he finished speaking, and took out 3 big wooden bowls from behind him. It was raging outside and the sky was already dark. There was only a bonfire in the room, but the light only reached 5 steps away. The rest of the room was pitch black. When Lu Laodao stood up, he casually threw a talisman into the fire, and the bonfire became even brighter, illuminating the whole room. Ingjuren was finally able to get a glimpse of the whole room. Just by glancing at the east corner, he immediately jumped up in shock, and a fine layer of cold sweat seeped out of his back. In the east corner there was actually half a person lying on the ground. He couldn't see clearly, but in the dim light he could only see a human silhouette lying on the ground. But half of the body had been eaten, and the skin was pale as if the person was not wearing clothes. The first thought that came to his mind was that it was a man-eater. The second thought was the safety of his subordinates. However, before he could have the third thought, Lu Laodao had already laughed. He laughed, pulled out a piece of firewood from the bonfire, and threw it over so that Ingjuren could see it more clearly. It's not a human. Lu Laodao said casually, it just looks like a human. It's delicious, especially fresh and tender. Only then did Ingjuren see it clearly. It seemed to be an aquatic thing. The flesh under the skin was tender pink like the flesh of a lamb. It should have had hands and feet before, but since it was half-eaten, now that he could see it clearly, the human-like feeling was greatly reduced. But he still looked at Lu Laodao in disbelief and then looked at Mrs. Sanhua. You guys are eating demons. Lu Laodao smiled. What's the difference between eating demons and humans, Hero Ing? Ingjuren could not answer this question. Instead he looked into the jar. He did not know what seasoning Lu Laodao had added to cook it. The broth in the jar was almost at the bottom and it was bubbling. The yellow broth was sticky and there were 4 or 5 square pieces of pork belly. The golden fat and the soft lean meat were overlapping, trembling in the broth because of the churning bubbles, and emitting a rich aroma every time. There were also some yams and other things in the jar which were now full of the broth and fat. In the eyes of the hungry Ingjuren, it was indeed delicious. Looking at it and thinking about Lu Laodao's question, he did not know what to say. He could only turn his head and look elsewhere. As a result, when he looked, he was given a huge fright. Half of a demon's body was lying on the east side of the house. And there was another one on the west side of the house. But this thing looked even scarier than the demon's body. It was a skeleton. But it was not a white skeleton. The skeleton was connected with red and white muscles, as if a person had been skinned and a lot of flesh was bitten off. But there were blood vessels climbing on it, and there was even blood flowing. He must have no idea who it was that had been subjected to such torture. But when he was about to ask, Lu Laodao smiled again. This one is not a demon but a human. You don't know her, but she is very famous. The most talented female cultivator in the Langya cave in Daotong Ling Kongzi. She is her. He looked at the scary human figure while saying, it's still growing. After a few days, it will not be so afraid of people. Chapter 233. Ling Kongzi's name resounded like thunder in the ears of all the cultivators in the world. But to Ingjuren it was indeed a strange name. Therefore he didn't ask why this person named Ling Kongzi was here or why he was in such a situation. He was just shocked by the successive scenes in front of him. He thought that when Meng Ao recommended this ghost oracle Lu Gongzan to him, He thought that this person had retired from Jianghu for many years and might not be as ruthless as today's young people. In Jianghu, one needed martial arts skills and connections but also ruthlessness. But now he realized that the ruthlessness of Jianghu people could no longer describe or measure this ghost oracle Lu Gongzan in front of him. He didn't even belong to the secular world anymore. Instead, he was in another world that was more dangerous, mysterious, and magnificent. In that world, the boundaries of people began to blur. They were eating the demon. Was it considered eating people? At least, many Jianghu martial artists couldn't be as calm as this Lu Gongzan when faced with such a thing. Ying didn't say anything or ask any more questions. He just watched Lu Laodao fill the wooden bowls with meat and pour some soup over it. After filling 3 bowls, he handed one to Ying. Black Knife looked at the half-body in the west corner and then at Lu Laodao. He took a deep breath and took the bowl, but he only held it in his hand. Lu Laodao didn't insist that he eat it. He took the other wooden bowl and walked into another room. Only Ying and Mrs. Sanhua were left in the dilapidated hall. At this time, the demon hurriedly went to the fire and sniffed the meat. Then she picked up the bowl. She first took a small bite, looked at Ying and then ate big chunks. Even the soup was not left. Then she looked at the earthen jar. After a few glances, she turned her head and stared at Ying hand. The Black Knife knew that she was a demon. Her face was once again illuminated by the fire, and she even saw that she had just eaten one of her own kind. Thus, when he saw Mrs. Sanhua sticking out her bright red tongue and licking her lips, he felt a tingling chill spread over his body. He hurriedly handed over the bowl in his hand and said with a smile, "I don't really want to." Sanhua reached out and took it. Her fingertips touched the back of Ying hand. He felt a shocking heat. Her body looked cold, but it was actually so hot. Mrs. Sanhua also finished the soup in Ying bowl and stuffed the bowl back into his hand. Then she burped, stood up and walked a circle around Ying. Black Knife could feel that the other party's gaze was like an awl nailing its spine, as if it wanted to see through it. Then the demon stopped beside him, got down on all fours like an animal and looked at him. After looking for 2 breaths, when he could not help but ask what was going on, she suddenly leaned close to his ear, and the bright red tip of her tongue almost touched his ear. Ying didn't have time to react at all and could only forcefully endure it. He could feel this demon starting from his ear and deeply sniffing his body from top to bottom, before returning to his ear. Then he heard her say, "You stupid thing, you barge in. You smell like a human. Let me tell you something. It's not in vain. Give me the meat to eat." Ying had heard the rat and rabbit demon talking before. Although they did not seem to be scheming, their speech was smooth, clear, and logical. Anyone would think that it was a human and not a mutant. But when he heard Mrs. Sanhua speak again, he felt that it was strange and disordered, like a child who was learning to speak or had a mental illness. Therefore, when he heard what she said, he only thought that she was going to say some stupid nonsense. This demon might not have a clear mind and was looking for him to tease. But he had to be more careful, in case she suddenly lost her mind and tore him apart. He forced a smile on his face. He was about to speak, but the demon had already spoken before he could. Just this one sentence was like a clap of thunder in his head, causing his hair to stand on end. That Lao Dao is not a human. The most frightening thing in a desolate village and broken temple was to meet ghosts. Although Ying had been living with demons for the past few days, he could see and touch the demons in his eyes, and they were not too ferocious and scary. And he had just met them for the first time, so his mind did not accept and adapt too much. At this time, when Mrs. Sanhua said this in the flickering light of the fire, and he was in such an environment, he immediately remembered all kinds of legends about ghosts who harmed people. But after a moment of shock, he understood. He quickly let out a long breath, calmed down and forced a smile. "Your Highness, you must be joking. You guys are... what kind of supernatural power do you have?" "He is a demon, a cultivator. What's so special about that?" Sanhua leaned close to his ear and continued, "Lu Laodao is indeed a human. The one you see, but he is not a human." When she said this, she raised a finger and shushed him. "Shh. He doesn't know that I know." The suppressed chill rose from the bottom of his heart again. Ying thought he understood what this demon meant. He had seen this demon in action in the alley. Killing the 2 Taoist priests who left him helpless was like slaughtering pigs and dogs. But now, listening to her tone, she clearly knew something was wrong with this Lu Laodao. but she did not dare to say it. Sweat finally flowed down his back. The wind outside the room was strong. People had to speak loudly in order to hear clearly. So Ingjuren moved to face the direction where Lu Laodao went in, and asked Sanhua in a low voice, "Your Highness, are you saying that the Lu Gongzan I see now is not the original Lu Gongzan? Can you tell me in detail?" Sanhua moved closer to his ear and winked. "Ah, that's right. We were originally separated. Then, I saw this old man. So long-winded. Baba." After saying this, Sanhua seemed to find it difficult to explain the details of that day, so she became impatient and was about to hide in a corner. But this matter concerned Ingjuren's life. How could he dare to be as free and easy as this cat demon? After a lot of persuasion, he finally coaxed her to explain what happened that day. Then he took a deep breath and stared at the room Lu Gongzan went into for a long time, not daring to blink for a long time. According to Mrs. Sanhua, after Li Yunxin killed Yunzi and Daotong cultivators and came to the city of Wei, she and Lu Laodao were separated. The Taoists began to kill demons near the city of Wei, so they did not dare to stay for long. They fought with the stinky Taoist of Daotong, ran further and further away, and finally hid in this wild forest. Then they met Lu Laodao. When she first met him, he was not very talkative, but Sanhua was very talkative. After talking for a long time, Lu Laodao also began to talk, but he always asked her some strange questions. From Ingju Ran's point of view, it sounded like she was trying to pry information out of the three-flower goddess's mouth. Then he talked more and more, and the questions became more and more ingenious. Until one day Sanhua finally felt that something was wrong, but she met Rat Demon Shuk and Rabbit Demon Siji again. That night, when Lu Laodao was not present, Mrs. Sanhua told the two demons the whole story. When the three demons were talking, they were facing the direction where Lu Laodao was coming back. Moreover, the three of them all cultivated the divine heart technique passed down by their dragon king, and were in the emptiness realm. When it came to fighting, they would not be at a disadvantage when facing the Taoists of Daotong. But they did not know when Lu Laodao turned around and went behind them. The three demons muttered and were about to disperse to think of a solution, but when they turned around they saw Lu Gongzan standing behind them. His eyes were bright, like two big lanterns in the dark forest, dazzling and frighteningly bright. Seeing this, the three demons simply shed all pretense of cordiality and captured him first. Unexpectedly, Lu Laodao just waved his hand, and the three demons immediately stood where they were, unable to speak or move. Sanhua was also a person who had seen the world. In the past, when Li Yunxin was in the city of Wei, he would often go to the Qiao residence in the front yard of the Dragon King temple to preach to them. Probably because Mrs. Sanhua had once saved his life, Li Yunxin was especially fond of her. He told her a lot of things he knew, not caring if she understood or not. However, the three flowers really remembered it. She spoke incoherently, but her thoughts might not be the same. Therefore, as soon as she saw the methods of this Lu Laodao, she knew that things were not good. Because Li Yunxin had told her many theories. Whether it was the painting school, Daotong, or Kenzo, the foundation was not too different. Their foundations were not too different, and the changes in their divine abilities were also traceable. For example, if a newbie barged into the kitchen and heard people say that this dish was cooked this way, that dish was cooked that way, he would only feel that all the different dishes were cooked differently. If he were to record them down one by one, it would be like a heavenly book. But if he knew that cooking was nothing more than using various methods to create various tastes that people liked, he would realize that many methods and principles were the same. As the saying goes, different routes lead to the same goal. So when he did things, he could see through it. He knew that if the meat was boiled and then fried, it would be crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, and if the meat was fried with rice flour, it would also be crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. It was all because of the principle of locking in the moisture. Sanhua listened to Li Yunxin's explanation of cultivation, so she knew that there were many techniques and supernatural powers that she didn't know how to use. But when you see someone use it, you can always understand what's going on. But at that time, Lu Laodao didn't use any talismans or spells. Just a casual flick of his wrist. She couldn't understand it. This meant that Lu Gongzan's methods were so high that it was shocking. It had really reached the level of unfathomable. After that, Lu Gongzan didn't say much, nor did he get angry. Instead, he stretched out a finger and tapped on the foreheads of the three demons. Sanhua only felt a wave of spiritual power enter her beer. It circled around but couldn't seem to find an exit, so it tumbled and dissipated. She didn't feel anything strange. The next moment Lu Laodao waved his hand again and the three demons were able to move. Only then did Sanhua realize that the rat and rabbit demons seemed to have completely forgotten about what just happened. They giggled and said a few words to their commanding elder, then went to do their own things. This Mrs. Sanhua used to be quick-witted. She scared away the swordsman who was chasing after Li Yunxin and saved her Dragon King. Now that she encountered this kind of thing, she was a little calculative. She didn't say anything and pretended that she had also forgotten about it. After that, she found a good opportunity to mention the previous matter to the rabbit and rat demons. Then an even stranger situation happened. Whenever she mentioned something related to Lu Gongzan is an imposter, the two demons acted as if they didn't hear it and turned a deaf ear to it. She didn't know what to do. However, she couldn't just abandon the two demons and escape by herself. When the two demons listened to her lectures, they almost had a master-disciple relationship with her. Although Li Yunxin gave them names, he never claimed to be their master. In fact, she was passing on the teachings on behalf of Li Yunxin. In that case, Li Yunxin was more like a grandmaster. Moreover, Sanhua knew that since Lu Gongzan could use such a magical method, she probably couldn't escape from his devil's claws. She was also afraid that if she escaped, she wouldn't know what this fake Daoist was planning and whether he wanted to harm her king. After thinking about it for a while, she didn't escape in the end. Instead, she pretended that she didn't remember anything and stayed by his side. After that, she was trapped here by a cloud of mist. Then she saw Li Yunxin walk out of the cloud, say a few words to them and disappear again. After Li Yunxin left, the horrifying body in the east of the hall appeared. At first it was just a skeleton and then it slowly grew. Nobody knew what it was made of. Ingjuren was inexplicably shocked when he heard this. For the first time he deeply experienced what it meant to come out of the dragon's pond and into the tiger's den. He let out a long breath and slowly turned his head to look behind him. He was afraid that Lu Laodao was also there, staring at him with a pair of lantern-like eyes. But behind him was the curtain of night and the heavy rain. He thought of Lu Laodao saying that his people were in the backyard. Would they be killed too? At this moment Lu Gongzan came out from the house. Ingjuren immediately let out a soft sigh, so that his heart wouldn't beat so fast. Lu Laodao held an empty wooden bowl in his hand. He first looked at the three flowers, then smiled and said, "Previously you complained that you didn't like it. Now you've eaten it all." Then he slowly walked to the fire and sat down, looking at the man and the demon. "You two have met before. Now you're talking to each other warmly. But heroing." He leaned forward slightly and looked at Ingjuren's face. "Why does your face look so pale?" Ingjuren was silent for a while, then he gritted his teeth and answered, "Maybe the spider venom hasn't been completely removed and my body is weak." Lu Laodao asked again, "Why is your heart beating so fast?" Ingjuren answered again, "The thunder is loud and my heart is flustered." "Why is your head sweating?" Ingjuren looked at Lu Laodao. "It's really hot next to the fire." "It's so hot." Lu Laodao didn't ask any more. Staring straight at Ingjuren, he slowly leaned his body back and let out a long, unintelligible "aw" from his mouth. "I thought Hero Ing had heard something that he shouldn't have. That's troublesome." Lu Gongzan smiled and said slowly, "Gossip is a fearful thing." With a loud thunder, his face was deathly pale like a dead person. Chapter 234. Behind Ingjuren, Triflower silently retreated into the shadows and did not say a word. Ingjuren forced a smile on his face. He held his breath and said with difficulty, "I didn't hear anything I shouldn't have. Mr. Lu, you're thinking too much. The storm is so heavy right now, I'm worried about my brothers. I want to go to the backyard to take a look." "That's human nature," Lu Laodao said. "Then go." Ingjuren was slightly stunned. He didn't expect this person to let him go so easily, but wasn't he worried that he would slip away? But after thinking about it, he felt relieved. Mrs. Sanhua was also very mysterious compared to him. But in front of this old man, she was obedient and didn't dare to leave. How could he escape? He took a deep breath and stood up with his saber. He wanted to go to the back to see if those people were okay, and he also wanted to look at the surrounding terrain. Although Mrs. Sanhua said that he couldn't escape from here, he couldn't be at ease without trying many things himself. However, just as he took 2 or 3 steps away, Lu Laodao seemed to suddenly remember something and said casually, "There's one more thing I just wanted to ask." Hero Ing said that he once saw an old man in the illusion of the Pearl Country. That old man also said something to Hero Ing. What was it? If it was an ordinary person, he wouldn't be able to remember it clearly. But the thing about the old man seemed to be deeply engraved in his mind, and he couldn't forget it even if he wanted to. So after a moment of hesitation he said in a low voice, "Mr. Lu, why are you asking this?" That thing was very strange. Lu Gongzan was very strange. A strange person asking about a strange thing was even more strange. Lu Laodao just smiled. "I'm just curious. If Hero Ing doesn't want to say it, then don't say it." Ing Juren really didn't want to say it. But if he didn't say it, he wouldn't be able to figure it out. Although it had only been a short day, the words that the old man had left him felt like they had been stuck in his head for more than 10 years. He was so frustrated that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. Because of this thought, he finally couldn't help but say those words word for word. He also wanted to see how Lu Laodao would react after hearing those words. The people of the Pearl Kingdom suffered from the invasion of the Tufeng Kingdom, but they didn't think about how to expel those people. Instead, they accepted their fate. Now that someone was knocking on their door, they wanted to rise up and fight back. Unfortunately, they were also a mess. It was hard to tell who was a friend and who was a foe, so he could only set up a target for himself. How laughable and pitiful. After Ing Juren finished, he paused for a while and let out a sigh. That's what that person said. He was looking forward to Lu Laodao's reaction. But the result was disappointing. It seemed that Lu Laodao was really just asking casually. When Ing Juren said the first few words, he listened attentively, but he didn't pay much attention to the latter part. Instead, he picked up the ladle in the earthen pot and scooped at the bottom. When he scooped up the minced meat, he put it into his mouth and smacked it. He seemed to be enjoying it very much. When Ing Juren finished speaking and vented his anger, he raised his head. "Do you know what meat this is?" Ing Juren shook his head in confusion. "It's big. It's the meat of a big human. It doesn't need any seasoning to be tender and delicious. It's really the best taste in the world." Lu Laodao said with a smile. "You didn't eat it, but you let that greedy Sanhua have it." These words exploded in Ing Juren's ears like a clap of thunder. He couldn't act anymore. If he continued to deceive himself in this kind of situation, he would just be a plaything for the strong. He simply held his knife horizontally and retreated to the door. The wind and rain outside the door instantly drenched his back. The cold wind blew at the back of his neck as if he was going to be beheaded at any time. Ing Juren circulated his internal energy and shouted, "Who are you?" Lu Laodao looked at Ing Juren, then looked at Sanhua and laughed. "You little thing, you're really unexpected. But if I think about it carefully, it makes sense. Since you remember and haven't forgotten, you should have said it earlier. You're just a demon. What kind of schemes are you playing?" His laughter sounded very scary against the sound of the wind and rain. But after laughing for a while, he sighed. "Sigh. I don't have any bad intentions. You kids are loyal to that Li Yunxin, and this Laodao is also loyal. I haven't experienced such kindness for a long time, so I'm reluctant to leave. But there's also the matter of that child." Lu Laodao pointed at the body of Ling Kongzi on the east side of the room. This Lu Laodao treats Li Yunxin with both love and loyalty. As for his lover Shirquizi, it's the love between a man and a woman in the world. The rest of you are trapped in a place like this. The emotions in your hearts are stronger than usual. These emotions, whether sad or happy, are used to shape the tribulation body of the 6 desires. Ing Juren was confused. He went to look at Sanhua. Just as he expected, Sanhua shrank in the corner, blinking her eyes as if she was extremely afraid. He was at his wit's end and could only listen to Lu Laodao. "Do you know what your body is?" Lu Laodao pointed at Ing Juren. But he didn't care if Ing Juren answered him. He continued. "Your body, flesh and soul. What is the soul? To put it bluntly, it's just the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Mortals are afraid of death because if the body is destroyed, the soul will be destroyed as well, turning into a lonely soul and wild ghost. But for cultivators, although there aren't many ways to shape the body, there are still quite a few. The art of possession, the art of possession, the art of puppetry. Cultivators cultivate to refine their body and soul so that they can live as long as the sun and the moon. How can they not study how to shape the body? But for cultivators it's easy to shape the body, but how can the soul return to the body? You have to know that part of the soul and the body are overlapping. When the body is built, the soul can't be attached. If the body is not built, the soul can't be attached. Tell me, what should we do? Lu Laodao. These words were easy to understand, even Ing Juren gradually understood. Now that this person asked him again, he didn't know why, but he answered as if he was possessed by ghosts and gods. The method is simple. Just like the weaver, black and white threads weave together, won't it work? Lu Laodao laughed. His laughter echoed in the hall, and the air that came out of his mouth even made the huge bonfire flicker. Yes. While building the body, can't we weave the soul into it? But there's one more thing. Cultivators have to go through all kinds of tribulations and cut off all kinds of emotions at the beginning of cultivation. The soul itself is the collection of the 7 emotions and 6 desires. The soul of a cultivator is actually incomplete. The souls of mortals like you are colorful. But when cultivators are alive, they have slowly removed and suppressed their emotions. Look at their souls again, it's faded, leaving a lot of empty space. What do you use to fill the empty space? Find the Tao heart and fill it with the Tao heart. If you can't find it, fill it with spiritual energy first. So you have to weave their souls back into their bodies, but you can't even find the thread, so how do you weave it? You have to find the 7 emotions and 6 desires and weave it again. But in this turbulent world, whether it's humans or birds or beasts, they all have their own place. Lao Dao nodded at Ing Juren. For example, you were born in this world, and when you die and turn into a pile of mud and ashes, are you still in this world? Of course you are. It's just that when you are alive, you occupy an empty space in this world, and when you die, this empty space will collapse and turn into more small empty spaces. Then, these small empty spaces of yours and the small empty spaces of others will come together and become a new empty space. A new person will come into this world. When Lu Laodao said this, he seemed to be very proud of his idea. He stood up, stroked his beard, and paced a few steps. The wind that he brought with him whistled in the hall, as if he was a huge bellows, constantly blowing air in all directions. So this world in essence is empty. It's made up of countless empty spaces. You, me, this grass, the bricks, and even this flame, in the end we are all the same thing. These empty spaces in the world are not many and not few. If one is added here, there must be one less there. Now I want to use the 7 emotions and 6 desires to weave the soul into the body, which is to use those small empty spaces to weave a big empty space for people to live. It's just that there are big and small empty spaces everywhere in this world, and when I weave her, those empty spaces will float in like flying ashes. How can this work? Tell me again, what should I do? After that, Ing Juren didn't understand these words. But he still heard something like, dust. He was annoyed, not knowing what this old man was going to do after saying these words, so he didn't have the mood to think carefully. Can't we just find a place where there isn't any flying dust? He asked. Lu Laodao waved his big sleeves and his eyebrows danced. Yes. Find a place with no empty space, and then weave the soul back with the 7 emotions and 6 desires of this world. But where can I find an empty space that can accommodate one person? Lu Laodao laughed. A person can't do it. A person's empty space is too small. If you want a big empty space, you can only go to those big livestock. Run into the empty space of the big livestock. It's clean inside. Except for those on your body, there are no impurities. As he spoke, he looked around and finally walked to the side of Ling Kongzi's bloody body. I used your love goo to weave this tribulation body of 6 desires for her. It's growing now. Speaking of which, I found it strange a few days ago. It was originally growing well. Why did the heart aperture grow so fast? Look at this bloodline. He reached out and flicked the blood vessels on the surface of the body. This bloodline's heart aperture has already taken shape. But now I know. So it's because of you, little thing. He turned to look at Mrs. Sanhua. You know a lot of things in your heart, but you don't say them. You made wild guesses in your heart, and as a result her heart aperture grew fast. If I didn't know about it today, this body might have failed at the last step. What do you have to compensate me? Sanhua didn't say anything and only hid a little further away. Seeing her like this, Lu Laodao sighed. Forget it. It was a good thing, but it scared you. Now that you all know the whole story, you all have your own thoughts in your heart. Today I won't be pure anymore. So naturally this thing can't be done. Speaking of which, it's the end of your luck, you child. As he spoke, he pointed at Ing Juren. Do you know what I'm cooking in the crock? Without waiting for him to answer, he said, that Dahu is a natural spiritual creature, and it has gained the ability to take the form of a human. Eating a piece of its meat, a cultivator can nourish and consolidate their realm, and a mortal can extend their life by 100 years. But you don't eat it and share it with this demon. Since that's the case, forget it. I'll leave this Ling Kongzi here. You tell that Li Yunxin this child didn't do anything wrong. She had offended him, so she had been framed. Since she has been tortured these days, consider it as payback for the evil deeds of her previous life. Now that she is a human again, if there's a chance, tell him not to harm her, and let her be a hermit in the secular world for the rest of her life. The development of the matter was beyond Ing Juren's expectation. He thought there would be a fierce battle of life and death and he would die here. But he didn't expect such a sudden turn. He didn't know whether it was true or not. A thought flashed in his mind and he was about to ask your name, but he saw a golden light suddenly appear on Lu Laodao's body. The golden light was like thousands of strands of golden fog, curling up and gathering in one place, forming a human figure. The human figure couldn't be seen clearly, but it was vaguely an old man. The old man paused on top of Lu Laodao's head, and suddenly went straight through the roof, shooting toward the sky in the east, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Only Ing Juren and Mrs. Sanhua were left standing in the hall. Ing Juren saw a shadow. He was standing at the door and the feet of the shadow were connected to his. It was his own shadow. But the problem was, when they were talking it was just nighttime and the wind and rain were raging. How could he see a shadow now? He hurriedly turned to look outside. He saw a clear sky and white clouds in the sky. The sky had brightened and the bonfire in the hall had long been extinguished. The demon on the west side of the house, with half of its body left, was nowhere to be seen, but the bloody body on the east side was still there. But Mrs. Sanhua was nowhere to be seen. At this time he heard a voice outside the house. "Hero Ing, how's your enlightenment?" Ing Juren fixed his eyes on the voice and saw Yu Meng standing in the courtyard outside the house looking at him. Ing Juren had experienced the illusion of the Round Pearl country, so he didn't dare to take it seriously. He just frowned and said, Yu Meng said, 10 days ago when we were sent here, Taoist Lu said you were poisoned by the spider. When you raised your inner strength to protect your heart, you happened to be enlightened about the realm of the technique, so you stayed here for more than 10 days. Today I saw you come out. How's your enlightenment?" Ing Juren blinked and looked outside the house in a daze. He saw Lu Laodao, who was supposed to be in the house. He smiled and bowed to Ing Juren. "You must have had a breakthrough. Congratulations, Laodao." Black Blade Ing Juren took a deep breath in disbelief, and remembered a certain legend. A woodcutter entered the mountain and met an immortal playing chess. He looked at the chess game and then looked at his axe, but even the handle was rotten. It had been hundreds of years. At this time another sentence jumped into his mind. The person who possessed Lu Laodao once said, "Ran into the space of a big animal. It's clean inside." Inside. Chapter 235. Although the old man's words were arrogant and mysterious, he was still logical. Then since he mentioned the word "this," Ing Juren did not care too much. He only asked one thing first. Did anyone come to the outside world recently? Lu Laodao and Yu Meng were both surprised when they heard the question. Then they told him the truth that someone had been here. On the second day after they arrived, a Taoist priest came. And he flew. He was at least in the state of the outer fringe. Although a Taoist priest in the state of the outer fringe could fly, it was difficult for him to do so. This meant that the Taoist priest's state should be higher. They could not see it in the fog, but the rat and rabbit spirits outside the fog could see it. The Taoist priest was like a blind man. He saw the dense fog in the forest, but he ignored it. He bumped around in the forest in a daze. After bumping around for a while, he left as if he could not find him. Ing Juren remembered what the old man said to him at night. He said that they might be the bait released by Dao Tong to lure Li Yunxin to open the prohibition spell. Now that they were confined here, they could avoid more trouble for Li Yunxin. Now that he knew what had happened, he knew that the mutant person who possessed Lu Laodao was telling the truth. The mutant person said that he did not mean any harm. It seemed like he was telling the truth. Whether it was intentional or not, he had helped Li Yunxin a little. Ing Juren looked into the house again. The body on the west side was gone, but the Ling Kongzi on the east side was still there. He pointed at the body of the Ling Kongzi and asked if they knew who it was. At this point, everyone could tell that something was wrong with him. But he still answered him. He said that he did not know when he was born in this house. No one knew who he was. Although he looked ferocious and scary, he did not harm anyone. Moreover, strange things often happened in this place, so he just let it be. Ingjuren let out a long sigh after listening to this. He looked up at the sky. The sky was a dazzling blue and the sunlight was a little strange. The sky was clear but the sun was nowhere to be seen. There was no sun. Light seemed to come from all directions, filling up this small world. He sat down slowly on the dry front steps and leaned on his knife. After thinking for a while, he said, "Listen to me. I don't know if it's real or fake. If you think it's fake, just take it that my spider venom hasn't been completely removed and I'm just imagining it." Then he slowly recounted what happened last night to himself. He had a habit of touching his chin with his hand when he was thinking. Ingjuren had a broad chin which he especially liked. He thought it made him look strong and powerful, so he used to shave. In this era, men with long beards were considered beautiful. Whether it was Li Yunxin or him, shaving like this was rare, but it wasn't rare. Therefore, when he spoke, he realized that Lu Laodao and Yu Meng were not trying to coax him. The last time he shaved was after he entered the city of Wei. In his time, it had only been 2 days. Maybe there would be stubble on his chin, but it wouldn't grow. But now that he touched it, he realized it was already a mess. In the end, he told everything he had seen and heard. Then he spread out his hands. "I didn't go into seclusion. It's only been a day here. I don't even know if you guys are real or just illusions. But that person said it's clean inside. I'm thinking, where are we now?" At first, people thought he was talking nonsense. Maybe the spider venom hadn't been completely removed or there was something wrong with his practice. But as he spoke, Lu Laodao's face gradually changed. Because some of what Ingjuren said couldn't be made up. Ingjuren said that he and the strange person who possessed Lu Laodao said that the weather here was strange. But the strange person said that the wind and rain were not strange. It was normal for there to be a rain of fish, a rain of meat and green plums. Ingjuren thought it was just a casual remark, but Lu Laodao knew it was true. These days it was normal for there to be wind and rain in the sky. But there were many more unusual things, not to mention the rumbling sound that came from the sky from time to time. The sound was like muffled thunder, but it seemed to be very far away. Once it started, it would take a long time for it to stop, but the sky was cloudless and there was no rain at all. As for the rain of fish and meat, it was indeed real. Otherwise, how could Lu Laodao survive these days? Every now and then those things would fall from the sky. And they were all cooked fish and meat. They fell one by one, covering the sky and covering the earth. Some of them broke into meat paste when they hit the ground, and some rolled into the mud and couldn't be eaten. Occasionally, some would hang on the branches and leaves of the trees, and Lu Laodao would wait for it to stop, then take it to eat. He used to be a foodie, so he felt that the taste was familiar. After eating a few times, he smacked his lips and realized that it was the food of the Southernwood house in the city. When he and Li Yunxin lived in the Dragon King Temple, incense was abundant and they had plenty of money. Occasionally they would ask the Southernwood house to send some noodles to eat, and he could still remember the taste. Because of Ingjuren's words, Lu Laodao recalled this memory. Then he thought of another thing. Fish and meat didn't fall every day, and occasionally there would be fruit. That fruit was none other than a sour green plum. He had eaten that thing for 2 days in a row, and now that he thought about it, he felt that his tongue was overflowing with saliva, and he could spit out water droplets when he opened his mouth. Green plum was Brother Xian's favorite. When he had nothing to do, he would occasionally take a green plum and slowly nibble on it. Lu Laodao looked at it and felt sour in his mouth, so he asked him why he ate it. Li Yunxin laughed and said that it wasn't something you could eat just because you wanted to. He was walking on the street when he bumped into someone selling this thing. It was sour and astringent and no one asked for it, so he bought a whole basket. When he felt that there was no taste in his mouth, he would pick one and slowly chew on it. It always cheered him up and reminded him. He also bought this thing. Lu Laodao and Lu Gongzan carefully thought about Ingjuren's words, and his eyes became brighter and brighter. An idea was spinning in his mind, ready to come out. He couldn't care less about other people. He showed his ability and jumped onto the roof and stared at the blue sky. After a while, he lowered his head and asked Ingjuren in a loud voice, "Did the strange man in your dream say anything else?" Ingjuren thought for a while and felt that he had said all the important things. There was nothing important. It was just the words that the strange man said before he left. Like, the luck is over, if there is a lucky chance, and other mysterious things. Lu Laodao listened to him again and he was silent for a while. He stood on the roof and stared at the sky. After watching for a while he suddenly smiled. Master Ing, you will know soon whether what you experienced was a dream or an illusion, real or fake. 2 flowers bloomed and each had a branch. However, Ingjuren only felt that one night had passed, but more than 10 days had passed. Li Yunxin and Dongting also felt the same. Everyone would feel that time passed slowly when they were bored. One day seemed to have been more than 10 days and it was terribly long. Boredom was because of boredom. Although there were beautiful women, interesting strange men and some stupid and cute monsters, the beauty must be the one he liked. But a beauty had to be someone he liked, and an interesting person had to know the background of his identity and make sure that he wouldn't cause any trouble. As for the monsters in the lake, Dragon Sun used to be much better than them, but he still talked and laughed with Dragon Sun. What was the point of these useless soldiers and crab generals? He was waiting these days. He was bored and anxious, but there was nothing he could do. He really overestimated the ability of those monsters. Originally, he rushed into the water to destroy Li Shan's cave, and he asked him to take his family to wipe out the monsters one by one. However, he soon realized that it was time-consuming and laborious, so it was better to ask them to gather together and send themselves to him. He knew that the Ao King sent his little monsters everywhere to invite people to work together. It was a pity that a group of monsters could not help him, so they just ignored him. Li Yunxin thought for a while and then he went to ask Su Weng, who lived in Mount Jun. He wanted to get some information from the old man, so he often chatted with him. That day when he was rambling, he told her about his worries. Those demons were too disappointing and couldn't gather at the same place. Su Weng seemed to be a playful person. He said it was easy. He immediately walked to the lakeside and shouted. The evil flood dragon in the lake obediently appeared. When Su Weng ordered it to destroy the demon's cave, the evil Jiao dragon went without saying a word. That was how the evil dragon destroyed the Pan Xian Valley, and the Valley Master Red Snake King went to find the Ao King to work together. Li Yunxin waited. After waiting for more than 10 days, he finally gathered about 30 to 40% of the monsters in the lake. According to Li Shan, the 5 Valley Masters led by Ao Wang had gathered a group of demons and were searching for Li Shan. They said they wanted to find Li Shan and the person behind him and at the same time, kill the evil Jiao dragon. However, in Li Yunxin's eyes, what they were doing was like children playing house. He just wanted to wait for them to start, then he would go and finish them all. Right now he was mainly doing 2 things. First, he wanted to make Su Weng happy. Second, he wanted to find the location of the dragon soul in the Dongting. Because he said something to Su Weng that day. Li Yunxin was not a person who liked to use force. To be able to stand in the darkness and watch the enemy die, he would never want to be sweating profusely as he cut the enemy to death with his blade. Of course, before the enemy was about to die, he had to come out from the dark and say something. Otherwise, what was the point of killing? Since he knew something about Su Weng's past from Li Shan, he could not hide it in his heart. Su Weng seemed to believe in the saying, if there are flaws all over, then there are no flaws. From the first time he met Li Yunxin, he told him everything. He did not hide his identity or his supernatural power. He carried forward the method of only telling part of the truth, and he was indeed powerful and unpredictable. Li Yunxin really did not know which flaw to hit. Since it was like this, he would not pretend to be a villain. He had something on his mind, so he asked. After getting the news from Li Shan that day, he took Li Shan back to Mount Jun. First, he threw the 10th young master in front of Su Weng and asked him to tell him everything. Then he drove him out and closed the door. Only he and the old man were left in the room. At that time it was already dark. They were in the middle hall of the Ziwei Palace in Mount Jun. The middle hall was built on the hillside with a cliff on one side. At this moment, from the window, they could see the bright moon hanging over the vast Dongting and the vast lake. It was a beautiful scene like a fairyland. Li Yunxin leaned against the window and looked at Su Weng, who was eating and drinking in the room. He smiled and said, I didn't mean to find out your background. I just met a group of demons and killed them casually. It turned out that they were related to your Su family. I thought about what he said for a while and felt that your life experience was so strange. You see, you are not an ordinary person. Your means are so brilliant that I can't even see your background. But you don't look like a demon. Logically speaking, I think your way of doing things is very similar to the Freemasonry. But you are against them. Then, could it be that you are someone from the Orthodoxy? But people from Dao Tong. Li Yunxin slightly lengthened his voice. When the cool lake breeze blew in through the window, he stared at the old man's face carefully. How can those idiots be as interesting as you? So I think you are not from Dao Tong. I say, old man, at this moment I am also half the owner of this Dongting. I serve you well and talk to you every day. You said that you still have 10 or 20 days to live. I am also taking care of you when you are old. So can you tell me your background? I know the masters all like to be mysterious. They ask the younger generation to figure out many things by themselves. I have heard a lot of such things. It is so amazing. But old man, you have to know that it is survivor bias. Stories of people who understand are passed down. Everyone thinks, wow, that's great. There are more people who don't understand. As a result, both of them are disappointed and no one records it. So, Li Yunxin walked to the front of Su Weng and sat down. He poured a glass of wine for him and looked at him sincerely. Let's be more sincere and less tricks. Let's be frank, okay? I am in a hurry now. I am worried about my people outside and I am also afraid that I will lose my life. If you need me to do something, you can tell me. If I think it is a win-win situation, I will try my best to do it. I don't think it is reliable and I don't like people who don't agree. Even if you don't say anything and force me, it will be a life and death struggle in the end. Li Yunxin sighed and said kindly, you have to know I am actually a very cruel person. The old man just listened quietly. After hearing the last sentence of Li Yunxin, he laughed. He picked up the wine on the table and drank it up. He put it down and smacked his lips. You are so impatient. He thought for a while and let out a long breath. Okay. Now that you say so, according to your temperament, haha, if I don't give you something, you will talk to me with a smile and plot against me in secret. You said you are cruel. I also know this, old man. But it is also because of this. The smile on Su Weng's face slowly disappeared. But he didn't become cold. Instead he became serious. It is because you are too cruel and evil. So even if there is a way to get you out of Dongting, you can't do it now. Don't worry. The old man said that I have a long life, so I won't live long. When I die, you can naturally leave Dongting. Li Yunxin smiled and was about to say something. Su Weng interrupted him. Don't smile. I know you have done those things. I also know you are forced to do many things. But, there is one thing I want to ask you. How did the girl of the Yin family die? Li Yunxin slowly straightened up. He slightly narrowed his eyes and a soft smile appeared on his face. What are you talking about? Chapter 236. The daughter of the Yin family, Yin Xuero. When Li Yunxin first came to the city of Wei, he made a statue for Lu Laodao's Dragon King temple. When the statue appeared, the residents nearby thought it was real, so they often came to worship it. So Yin Xuero also came. Yin Xuero's uncle was Inspector Yin Pingji. The girl went to the Dragon King temple, but she didn't really believe in God. She just gave up a lot of money every day just to talk to Li Yunxin. Su Weng mentioned her at this moment. A gentle smile appeared on Li Yunxin's face. But if Lu Laodao was here, he would know that this was the most dangerous time for him. Li Yunxin could laugh wildly, sneer, but this kind of smile was like a poisonous snake before it pounced. Su Weng didn't understand his temper and didn't seem to care about it. Instead, he looked at him seriously, reached out his hand and tapped on the table, saying, "You're a smart kid. You're more scheming and resourceful than ordinary people. I don't know how you took over this body, but I know a little about the previous method. Old man, tell me, see if I'm right. In your original plan, there were two people who played the most important role. One was the child beggar you met on Chongmen Street and the other was Inspector Yin. You gave the treasure to the beggar, but the beggar was killed in the alley and the treasure was taken away. The person who killed him was Inspector Yin. Inspector Yin robbed your thing and wanted to climb the social ladder, so he gave your painting to the magistrate of the city of Wei. Your painting entered the magistrate's yamen without arousing Lu Ling's suspicion. This was your goal. You wandered around Chongmen Street for many days and did strange things, but it was all to cover up and pave the way. The difficult part is how to make Inspector Yin ruin your plan. Previously, Inspector Yin was tamed by you and he wanted to make friends with you. Why did he suddenly turn against you and become so deranged? The old man paused for a moment. Li Yunxin heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. He stared into Su Weng's eyes and asked, "Who exactly are you? If I had to guess, I'd say you're the art saint. Am I right?" Su Weng squeezed out a small smile on his face, but it disappeared in a flash. "You're also a daring child." But his guess was wrong. "You don't need to know who this old man is, you only need to know that he can't escape from the palm of my hand. I'm not trying to harm you, I'm trying to help you. You go astray. In these few days I have to teach you the right way of life." Since his reincarnation, no one had ever said such words to Li Yunxin. He wasn't a gentle person to begin with, and he hated authority the most. Hearing this, he sneered, "Behave? Old man, get this straight. I'm a demon now, not a human." Su Weng shook his head. It did not just refer to people born from parents. Demons also know about the right way of life. But let's not talk about this first. Sit down properly. Li Yunxin wanted to get up, but Su Weng waved his hand. Strangely enough, he felt a gentle force pressing down on him. It was as if there was another Li Yunxin on his body. He wanted to move, but that person didn't want to move, opposing him in everything. He was trapped on this bench. But it wasn't any violence, just don't tell him to get up. Su Weng continued, "Sit down and listen to me. Why did Inspector Yin Pingji suddenly hate you so much? It's because of a mirror. That night you went to the Yin residence to borrow a mirror. But you climbed over the wall and went to Yin Shuero's room to borrow it. Why did you borrow a mirror? Take a good look at yourself. You may have to draw your own appearance and energy, so the more detailed, the better. You don't need to frown. The art school used to be a flourishing school. This old man isn't the art saint, but I know about these things. If you have this and that kind of supernatural power, why did you use a mirror? It's fine if you wanted to borrow a mirror, but why did you go to the Yin residence? You clearly knew that the 9th young master was hovering in the sky above Weiqing City and might see you, but you still went." The old man shook his head and looked at Li Yunxin. "You actually lured the 9th young master to the Yin residence and asked him to eat Yin Shuero alive. The Yin residence's Inspector Yin loved his niece very much and blamed it on you. That's why he turned against you, killed the beggar, and sent that important painting to the magistrate's yamen. Li Yunxin, don't you think so?" Li Yunxin didn't say anything and only smiled at the old man. This seemed to be the only thing he could do at the moment. Su Weng saw that he didn't say anything inside. "You think I want to accuse you of this, but you're wrong. What I want to ask you today is the devil in your heart. Li Yunxin, that day at Dongting Lake you told Bai Yanjun that you had a clear conscience, that you killed people who deserved to be killed, and that you're a human devil, not a demon. Do you really have a clear conscience toward Yin Shuero? In your plan, Yin Pingji is a difficult character to change, so you had to make him turn against you. If you really are a human devil and cruel, just go to the Yin residence and kill Yin Shuero. Why did you use the 9th young master's hand?" He said this again. Li Yunxin finally frowned and snorted. "You're not the art saint, why do you care so much about me? What's the difference between the cultivators of Daotong and the demons when they kill civilians? If they really need to kill, they won't even blink. Why don't you go and teach them a lesson? Do you think I'm a soft-hearted person?" The old man stared at him. "Do you know what's the difference between you and them?" He picked up a chopstick and gently knocked on the edge of the wine glass. The cultivators of Daotong never showed mercy when killing people because there was no need to. They crossed the doom and forgot their emotions, so they didn't care about the life and death of those secular people. They wanted to kill Yin Shuero, so they did it. Even if they didn't want to be known by others, they had other ways. "But do you still remember what happened at that time?" Su Weng knocked on the edge of the wine glass again. The wine glass was made of jade and the chopsticks were made of silver. The two hit each other, making a clear sound of gold and jade, as if the fog above the whole Dongting was dispelled. This sound and his question immediately stunned Li Yunxin. He widened his eyes and couldn't say a word. Looking at him sitting like this for a while, Su Weng sighed slightly. "You don't remember, right? You know what happened that day, but you can't remember the details. That's because you used a magical method to hide that memory. You told yourself not to think about it, told yourself to forget about it, so that you wouldn't have a devil in your heart." As soon as he finished speaking, Li Yunxin suddenly became furious. Although he couldn't stand up and could only sit, it didn't prevent him from doing something else. He saw Wei River Dragon King suddenly hit the table and the table was smashed into powder. Even the bowls and cups on it were smashed into tiny pieces. He shouted, "Where did this old scoundrel come from? Why did you ruin my cultivation?" After he shouted this, he felt something sweet in his throat. A mouthful of golden dragon blood was spat out, which scattered into a golden light in the air. But his attack didn't hurt Su Weng at all. The old man also returned a palm strike without batting an eyelid. The fragments that were floating in the air immediately gathered back and became a table full of food and wine again. "Do you know that you're digging your own grave?" The old man shouted in a deep voice. "You suppressed your devil in your heart and became a demon. Do you think that you don't need to go through a tribulation as a demon? If you want to stop at the mysterious realm, you can do whatever you want. But if you want to ask for love, sooner or later you need to have a Tao heart and go through a tribulation. With your temperament, have you ever thought about what would happen to you once you reach the profound realm, but your cultivation stagnated, and you buried your inner demons and couldn't retreat?" Li Yunxin abruptly stood up. The restriction on her body had disappeared without her noticing. He stood up, rolled up his sleeves and looked like he was going to fight with Su Weng like a boorish man in the marketplace. But after thinking for a while, he seemed to know that he was no match for the old man, so he kicked the stool in front of him. The stool spun a few times in the room, broke through the paper window and flew out of the room. Outside the room, Li Shan heard the noise and quickly ran in to ask, "What's the matter, my king?" Li Yunxin scolded, "Get lost." Li Shan immediately stopped talking and ran far away. Then he kicked and punched around the room angrily. After a quarter of an hour he finally stopped. He turned to glare at Su Weng and pointed at him. "Old bastard, are you the White King of Hell or the Black King of Hell? Otherwise, how do you know these things?" Su Weng was still not angry. He sat in front of the table and just watched Li Yunxin go crazy. He looked at him for a while and said, "You guessed wrong too. What on earth do you want?" Li Yunxin looked at him angrily. "You want to reason with me? I know a lot of reasons and I don't need you to tell me." The old man smiled slightly. "I know your cultivation is ruined now. You feel guilty for what you did, but you just suppressed it. Now I found out for you that your mind is restless, your thoughts are not clean and your realm is not stable. But you have to know that there is no safer place than Dongting in the world at this moment. If you are not here now, will you have such a good chance to get rid of your devil in the future? You feel guilty for Xianxia, so you still have feelings in your heart. But you claim to be ruthless. In fact, you don't understand feelings. You don't understand those feelings, so you just pretend that they don't exist. If you really encounter something like Xianxia, you just can't be ruthless. You look down on the people of Daotong, but now you should know. The cultivation method of Daotong that has been passed down for thousands of years has its own mystery. You should also know why human cultivators don't want to be Yin spirits. You are the perfect example. You have become a Yin spirit, but you still have a human heart. You can't even learn the ruthlessness of Daotong and the demons. Is there anyone in the world who is more embarrassed than you?" Li Yunxin's chest was moving up and down violently. He stared at Su Weng fiercely like an angry lion. After Su Weng finished speaking, he took a deep breath and calmed himself down. "Okay. Even if what you said is reasonable. Even if you do it for me, I don't ask who you are. What do you want me to do? Go through doom like those people of Daotong?" He suddenly pointed his hand to the west. "A group of bastards outside the inhibition of Dongting is guarding me. They think I can handle the inhibition, but I won't let them in. Do you want me to go through doom at this time? Then I will go through this doom and that doom, until I become like those bastards." Li Yunxin spread his hands. "What's the difference between that and death?" Su Weng heard his words and laughed. "Yes. There's no difference. So you don't want to go through doom and I don't want you to either. Today I just want to teach you the truth of being a human. You used to be a human, but now you are a demon. But in my world, human doesn't look at the physical body, nor does it look at the body. Only those who have 7 emotions and 6 desires are human. If they lack too many, they are not human. The cultivators of Daotong are not human in my world. I'm not talking about being a human. It's good that you are scheming, willing to use your brain and can do things. But I hope you will think about the future before you do things in the future. Most people in this world don't like the righteous path. They talk about morality, benevolence and righteousness, but the way they do things is different. In the secular world, I also know that if you are upright and pedantic, There will naturally be people who want to take advantage of you and step on you. You want to say that the heavenly Tao will be rewarded? In today's world, that's bullshit. The people of this world believe in the deities of the heavenly cave school, and believe in the celestial beings of the heavenly court. But who knows what they are and what shady business they do? But in the world of cultivators, it's very different. The heavenly Tao doesn't exist in the secular world, but it exists in the world of cultivators. Su Wing said these words and stood up. He strolled to the window and gave his back to Li Yunxin, as if he wasn't the least bit worried that Li Yunxin would suddenly attack. For example, your matter. You are like the cultivators of Daotong and the demons. If you killed Yin Shuero with a clear conscience, then it's fine. But you have a clear conscience. You have a guilty conscience, and the heavenly Tao is in your heart. Thus the heavenly Tao can't forgive you. You have a heart demon. With your personality, if you really want to cultivate, you can't learn the way of the demons, and you also can't learn the way of the cultivators. You have to have your own way of doing things. If you have a guilty conscience, if you don't feel comfortable, then don't do it. You can let go of your restraints and indulge your nature, but only when you feel that you have a clear conscience will you do it. Only then will the heavenly Tao be clear, only then will you have a chance to ask about love. After listening to him say so much, Li Yunxin's expression became even calmer. He stood under the moonlight with his hands clasped behind his back and stared at Su Weng's shoulder. Then he sneered, "The heavenly Tao that you speak of to me is no different from the situation in the secular world. What if the heavenly Tao is in my heart? For example, a cultivator and I killed the same person. I couldn't bear it, so I spared him. That cultivator didn't have the slightest bit of mercy. He killed me and took a heavenly treasure. Then he refined it into a magic weapon and killed me. What's the use of the heavenly Tao in my heart? It'll only make me die quickly. It's better for me to bury my heart demon and move forward. Perhaps the clouds will disperse and the moon will shine brightly, and there will be a new world." The old man turns around. His face is hidden in the shadow, only being plated with a layer of cold light by the moonlight behind him. Li Yunxin hears his even lower voice. "When you were outside Mount Bianjuan in Dongting, you talked to Bai Yanjun about the principle of karma and retribution in the world. Do you really think there is no heavenly Tao in this world? If the heavenly Tao can be seen by you, what kind of heavenly Tao is it? The heavenly Tao is invisible. It's narrow-minded to say that it's something, idea, theory, or even the mysterious fruit of fate. If you can say it and distinguish it, then it's not heavenly Tao. I'm telling you these things today so that you can have a clear conscience in the future. Whether you really have a clear conscience or not, when the heavenly Tao's karma comes in the future, you will know that I really want to help you today." Li Yunxin suddenly frowns, keenly aware of the profound meaning in the old man's words. He doesn't even care about getting angry. He just steps forward and leans forward to ask, "What do you mean? What is karma?" Chapter 237. But the old man shook his head and smiled in the darkness. He said he would leave after a month, but now there are some changes. That old man left just like that. But you have to know, there will be retribution, and so will the heavenly Tao. You don't need to care about the world, but you have to live a magnanimous life. There's one thing you have to know. The old man looked at Li Yunxin with a burning gaze. Some people may have this illusion, that everything in this world goes according to his will. Every misfortune will turn into fortune, and every misfortune will turn into fortune, as if all the luck in this world is with him. Thus his realm is higher and his vision is higher. He feels that he is the chosen one by heaven and fate. But sometimes things are not that simple. The luck you receive may not be luck. You are also a person who likes to play games, so you should understand the thoughts of the people in your game. Luck may be given by others. Since it can be given, it can also be taken away. There's an example recently, that Ling Kongzi, isn't she a favored one? Her pride in the past was no less than yours now. You mean someone is helping me? Li Yunxin immediately said, "I know this. But why? What does the Daotong monster and demon Freemasonry want me to do?" His words came out in a rush, one after the other. Because he saw the old man's body gradually hunched over, as if he was weakening at a speed visible to the naked eye. But the old man could no longer reply. He was like a withered tree. Before Li Yunxin could say another sentence, the old man fell down softly, no longer having his previous magical power and imposing manner. Li Yunxin stepped forward in time and inserted his arms under the old man's ribs to support him. He only asked, "Are you really dead or are you an incarnation?" The old man tried his best to widen his eyes to look at him. His white hair lost its luster, turning into a dry, dead gray. His skin also began to shrivel like a dried fish. Li Yunxin read the meaning in his eyes. The two hypotheses he asked were not options. This old man was not really dead, nor was he an incarnation. He could not think of any other options. 2 breaths later he could no longer support Su Weng. The old man's body became even drier and drier until it turned into a pile of ashes and disappeared into the night. Perhaps it was an illusion, but Li Yunxin saw a golden light shooting into the sky from the dust. But at this moment the moonlight was bright and clear and he was astonished. Even if he saw wrongly he wouldn't know. After another quarter of an hour the dust dispersed. He was the only one left in the room standing in the moonlight. When Su Weng was around, Li Yunxin appeared powerless and irritable. He was trapped by the old man and had no choice but to obediently listen to his instructions. Now that Su Weng was gone, Li Yunxin's face was still filled with fear and doubt. He used his divine art to check if there were any brilliant arrangements or formations. Then he tried his best to listen to the sounds coming from the top and bottom of the mountain. After doing all this and confirming that the mysterious Su Weng had indeed disappeared, he heaved a sigh of relief. The fear and anxiety on his face disappeared. He became calm. He even curled his lips into a smile. The person who could understand his smile was not by his side at the moment. So his smile was only for the moonlight to see. After a while he turned around and sat at the table. He picked up the silver chopsticks and ate something. This crepe myrtle palace was built on top of the Lord Dongting mountain. Although it was magnificent and quiet, it was far away from the secular world. This meant that there was either a huge logistics team to provide everything needed here, or they had to endure in the vast and spacious palace. Obviously it was the latter situation. Li Yunxin didn't know how Red Lady had satisfied her cravings these days. When the Lord Dongting left he seemed to have taken all his soldiers with him. Even the white and soft maids he saw before were gone. So the chef must have been gone too. These days Su Weng's food was taken care of by himself. It wasn't that he wanted to roll up his sleeves and cook. He had a dragon palace. In the past he and Lu Laodao loved to eat and sometimes they would go out for a stroll. Li Yunxin didn't have a special concept of money in this world. He definitely didn't lack money when he was with his parents. Later when they went to the Dragon King temple they had an income of incense. They didn't need to buy cosmetics or clothes. They didn't need to save money to buy land so they ate it all. Whenever they felt it was delicious, they would order another meal to be prepared. He put all of it into his folding fan. The space in the fan would store food so that it wouldn't spoil. It would be the same as it was put in. Later when he went to the abandoned palace to see the ghost General Diwu Boyu, he ate green plums from the fan. These days he was eating the stock. The Southwood restaurant was not the best in the city of Wei, but it was the most popular. Su Weng also liked eating, and this was the last meal in his fan. He filled his stomach a little and felt that it was not the way to go on like this. He didn't know how long he had to stay here. But he couldn't eat the wind and drink the dew. Theoretically it was possible. But most of the time, people didn't want to eat because they were hungry. He was already in a not-so-optimistic environment. If he didn't have other fun he would be in a constant state of anxiety. This was the time when Li Yunxin sat silently at the table after Su Weng died. What he was worried about. He spent a quarter of an hour thinking about these things, as if what Su Weng said to him was just a passing cloud. Then footsteps came from outside the door. Li Yunxin looked up and saw Red Madam with one hand on the door, looking at him with her eyes. He asked casually, "Have you eaten?" Red Madam walked in leisurely and glanced around the room. There was a big commotion just now. "I heard something. What you said was mysterious. Where did Su Weng go?" She didn't want to eat anything. Li Yunxin didn't invite her to take a seat. He thought for a while and said, "I don't know if he's dead or not. But it's good that he's gone. I feel uneasy with him here." After saying that he continued eating and drinking. Red Madam stood at the side and looked at him quietly. There were no candles in the room, only the sound of Li Yunxin eating and drinking could be heard. Red Madam stayed like this for a while, but Li Yunxin didn't seem to want to stop. Finally she couldn't help but say, I heard from you. After listening for a while I roughly understood the situation. They said that you harmed her and lured ninth brother to attack. Is that true? Li Yunxin raised his head and looked at her. He thought for a while and stopped eating. Do you also care about this kind of thing? Red Madam twisted the front of her clothes with both hands, revealing the demeanor of a little girl. She said stubbornly, I just want to know. Li Yunxin sat quietly for a while and said with a smile, it's fake. I just deliberately left a flaw so that people who think they are smart will think that it's my inner demon. You see, I also deceived him, which means I will also deceive others. After listening to his words, Red Madam was stunned for a long time. After a while she said, that, if you deliberately left a flaw, why did you tell me? Li Yunxin smiled and didn't say anything. Red Madam looked at him as if she wanted to distinguish the truth from the lie from the expression on his face. But who had the ability to read Li Yunxin's mind from her face? She finally gave up and said faintly, you said it so lightly, I don't know if what you said is true or false. Your attitude, if others saw it, I'm afraid they will think the same way. But if you think about it from another point of view, maybe you said it because you think others won't believe it. Li Yunxin stood up and walked to the window. He let out a light breath. It doesn't matter whether I believe it or not. In the end it's my own business. Something like a clear conscience. Anyone can say it. It just depends on how they do it. As he spoke, his voice gradually became lower, as if his own words had aroused his own thoughts and feelings. But soon he raised his head again. Tomorrow I have 2 things to do. First, the palace is very cold and there is no one to serve me. Coincidentally, there are some people in the lake who are tired of living, so I will go catch them and see if I can find a good cook. What kind of dishes do you like? Red Madam didn't know if he was joking or serious, so she didn't know how to answer. Li Yunxin said again, but it's hard to say. Those things like blood and flesh. It's not easy to make a fire under the water. Who knows what kind of strange taste they will have. Then there's another thing. This Su Weng told me before that he had a way to open the restriction, but he disappeared. I think people like him don't like to brag. Maybe there will be a big change in the next 2 days. If the situation turns bad and blood flows like a river, I hope you will be mentally prepared. Red Madam wanted to say something but stopped. Li Yunxin immediately waved his hand and interrupted her. Don't mention your business. It's too troublesome to chase you out of the lake. He didn't know which of his words had touched Red Madam's heartstrings. The beautiful woman's bright eyes suddenly became misty and she once again called out, Li Lang. Seeing her like this, Li Yunxin finally sighed. I don't understand why a demon like you has such a temperament. Now if anyone saw this scene, they would definitely scold me, a scumbag. They would say that you are deeply in love with me, but I don't care, I'm really bad. But today I'm a bit emotional, so let's talk about this matter. Sit down. Li Yunxin pointed at the low stool next to the table. Red Madam blinked her eyes and sat down. Li Yunxin sighed. In the past your father and I were enemies. So I used some tricks on the enemies and their helpers to obtain my own benefits. In the end I accidentally provoked you. Instead of you walking along the roadside, I jumped out to cheat your money, your body and your feelings. Although it's not very upright, it's 2 different things. These days you always want to figure out, whether I like you or not, whether I have you in my heart. Li Yunxin smiled. Miss, the spring is beautiful and the world is peaceful. Maybe I like this feeling of being cared for, but the problem is, there is a group of people outside who want to kill me. So at this juncture, every day I think about how to save my life, and every day you think about whether I love you or not. Let's put it this way. Even if I originally loved you, now I can't love you. If I really want to love someone, as I said before, it must be someone who makes me feel interesting and surprised. This person and I are in sync and complement each other. She's my partner and my teammate, not a distraction. He said all this in one breath and Red Madam stopped crying. Li Yunxin thought again and helplessly spread out his hands. There's one more thing, you can think about it carefully. First you thought I was a good person. Then you came to me and told me that if I kill you I can get out of the lake. Put aside our subjective feelings and think about the nature of this matter. This is not just an awkward little girl coming to torture me, but she wants me to have another demon in my heart. Cultivation is a big thing, little girl. Li Yunxin slightly bent over to look at her. If anyone else dared to do this to me, the grass on their graves would have been 3 feet high. As soon as he finished speaking, he mounted the cloud and flew out of the window, leaving Red Madam sitting alone in the room in a daze. Li Yunxin flew for a while on the surface of the lake, and then he saw a white line in the water approaching him. He knew it was Li Shan. Li Shan was a transcendent realm demon of the Water Clan, but he didn't know any dharma, unlike cultivators who could fly in the sky and travel underground. But his speed in the water was extremely fast, almost as fast as him flying on the clouds. Li Yunxin had some other plans in mind, so he wanted to end the matter of the Water Clan in the lake as soon as possible. Seeing Li Shan's head coming out of the water, he grabbed the air and brought him up to the cloud. He asked, "Why don't I see you? Where did you go?" The white eel spirit hurriedly opened his mouth. He looked a little panicked, as if he wanted to say something like, "Something bad is going to happen." But when he looked at Li Yunxin, he swallowed his words and pretended to be calm. He said, My king, there is an extraordinary person outside the lake." Li Yunxin was slightly stunned at first, and then he asked with a normal expression, "Dragon's son?" Obviously not. Li Shan was dizzy and didn't hear what Li Yunxin said clearly. He just continued, "It's the adopted daughter of the golden-winged rock king, a great demon called Bai Yunxin." He thought that after saying these words his Dragon King's face would loosen a little. But he didn't know that his Dragon King had fought with the terrifying Bai Yunxin when he was in the Emptiness Realm. They were already old friends. Therefore Li Yunxin smiled lazily. "Oh, it's her. What is she doing here?" Li Shan found a new master and felt that he was more important than when the Lord Dongting was here. Therefore he really wanted to make a big career. He was really worried that the Dragon King would ruin his future because of his unreasonable behavior. He said hurriedly, "Bai King, you don't know. Bai Yunxin has a maid who is very favored by her. It is said that Bai Yunxin will listen to everything you say. She is really amazing. She is a maid, but she is no worse than a sister. But do you know who the maid is, my king? She is the daughter of the old turtle in the Cauldron Cast Valley in the lake." Li Shan sighed with fear and hatred when he said this. Now Bai Yunxin came to Dongting for the worm meat in the lake. She came to get the meat for her adopted father. At first we thought that the woman couldn't come in, so we let those guys do whatever they wanted. We thought it would be easier for them to gather together. But now, my king. Li Shan's voice trembled slightly when he said this. Bai Yunxin came into the lake. As soon as he said this, Li Yunxin, who was calm at first, grabbed him and pulled him in front of him, shouting, "She came in." "How did she come in?" Chapter 238. Li Shan feels that his king's reaction at this moment is finally serious. He hurriedly says, "I don't know, but I think those demons with a high realm have their own ways. Maybe the inhibition can't stop them." Speaking of this, he looks at Li Yunxin, but he can't see it. He can only pretend. "Pai King, what realm are you in?" Li Yunxin is not in the mood to talk to him or respond to his guess. 10th Young Master, Li Shan rarely leaves Dongting, so he only hears the name of Wei River Dragon King's 9th Young Master. Li Yunxin also says that he is Wei River Dragon King and he is indeed a Shinryu. Therefore he naturally regards him as the 9th Young Master. It is said that the 9th Young Master is at the peak of the Transcendent Realm. It is enough to deal with the sea creatures in the lake. However, Li Shan doesn't know how to deal with Bai Yunxin. He doesn't think he can win. That's why he is so worried. He just wants to find a way to avoid the catastrophe in front of him. He can't change sides. The 5 Valley Masters have hated him for a long time. Now he finally has such an opportunity. How can he let it go? Therefore he thinks for his king and says, "Since your king doesn't want to say, well, I think you don't want to fight with Bai Yunxin." Of course. There is a saying in the art of war. He starts to say a lot of words. After all, he wants to give his king a way out so that Li Yunxin can take him to avoid the trouble. Maybe when Bai Yunxin gets the worm meat, she will go far away. Then he can do something big. As he spoke, Li Yunxin listened to him. In fact, he doesn't take it seriously at all. He looks at the lake below while riding the wind. He is thinking about one thing. Is it a coincidence that Bai Yunxin comes at this moment? Tonight Su Weng died. Before he died, he told himself that he had a way to get out of Dongting. Then Bai Yunxin broke in. What Li Shan said about those with higher realms will have their own ways was complete bullshit. Bai Yunxin was in the true state and so was he. He even knew the Taoist magic of the school of painting. Speaking only of technique and not strength, he was much better than that scary little beauty. He had racked his brains but could not come up with an easy way to escape. This meant that there must be a key point that he did not understand, and it had little to do with his realm and strength. Besides, there was a precedent. When the Lord Dongting activated the seal, even Kun Wuzi, who was at the mystical realm, could not enter. Then the Lord Dongting ran away. This meant that both Lord Dongting and Bai Yunxin had a solution. The method that Su Weng told him about to get out of this predicament might be related to Bai Yunxin. As he thought of this, Li Shan had also reached the crux of the matter. I discovered it by chance. It was a very secluded place. Let's lie low for the time being. Once the limelight dies down, that Bai Yunxin won't stay for long. Li Yunxin smiled and said, "That's right. She probably won't stay for long. I still have some things to do with her. It's better to sort them out as soon as possible." Li Shan spoke enthusiastically and replied, "Your Majesty is wise, Your Majesty is wise." He answered casually, but he did not expect that Li Yunxin would not hide but go to find Bai Yunxin. He was instantly dumbfounded. Li Yunxin did not care about his reaction. He threw him down the cloud and said, "Since you are afraid, then hide well." Then he rode the cloud and went straight to the place where the monsters of the lake gathered according to Li Shan. He flew in the night for an hour and finally saw lights in the distance. The lights were on a small island, deep in the hinterland of Dongting Lake. Usually there was no one there, but now it was very lively. Speaking of which, the sea monsters in the lake did not like fire and smoke. They also liked to live in the water when they transformed into human forms. This time it was probably because of Bai Yunxin that he had just come ashore and caused such a scene. When Li Yunxin was 1 mile away from the island, he saw dense sea monsters in the water. They had not transformed into human forms, but they were very fat. They must be the uncivilized relatives of the lake monsters, and they all had a lifespan of about 100 years. As he moved forward, he saw small demons peeking at him from under the waves. After watching for a while, they dived down, probably to report. But he came from the sky and rode on the cloud. Who could not see him? When he approached the shore of the island, he was surrounded by the yellow light of the fire on the island, as if he was wrapped in a mass of topaz. At this time he saw clearly how those lake monsters lit the fire and made the fire shine for 1 or 2 miles. They actually set the entire forest on the island on fire. The fire soared into the sky, but it was blocked by a water wall on the shore. The water wall blocked the fire and heat, and a large white beach was circled as a square. The square was covered with all kinds of gold, silver, and jewelry, and on the table was a throne made of coral and rocks. A woman in white was sitting on the throne with one hand supporting her cheek. She seemed to be thinking about something. Under the throne, the demons were dancing wildly. No matter how strange they looked, all the demons that could come ashore were gathered together. They did not dare to get close to the woman and only looked at her from afar. Some of them were praising, some were begging, some were whispering to each other, and some were fighting over small things. There were at least a few hundred of them, like a pot of boiling turbid water. When Li Yunxin got closer on her cloud, the fiendish demons all raised their heads. Most of them did not know who Li Yunxin was, but they should have heard about him. A big demon came to the lake. Because they had the support of Bai Yunxin, under the instigation of the Lake Valley Master and the Stream Master, they made a ruckus at him. Some of them bared their teeth like wild beasts and some of them said some dirty things. But they did not understand human language and their words did not make any sense. Li Yunxin did not care if they wanted to provoke him so that he could find trouble with Bai Yunxin. He could not remember the last time he used this kind of simple and primitive plot. He just landed on the platform in front of the throne, stared at the woman and let out a long breath. It was indeed Bai Yunxin. Because when he landed, he saw that there was a black donkey behind the throne. The first time Li Yunxin saw her, she was riding this donkey. He did not know that it was a divine creature, but it was really just an ordinary donkey. Bai Yunxin had a young maid beside her. Li Yunxin remembered the scene where this maid ate the head of a Kenzo cultivator outside the Mrs. Sanhua temple. Li Shan said this maid was the daughter of the Toad King in the lake. But now, because she was by Bai Yunxin's side, her level of cultivation seemed to be even higher than her father's. Being able to instantly kill a cultivator of sword sect who was on full alert was not something any demon could do. He was relieved. He was afraid that Li Shan had misheard the news. So he smiled, took a few steps forward and stopped 5 steps away from Bai Yunxin. At this moment the lake demons had surrounded them. The 5 valley masters were in front and the dozens of stream masters were behind. Even further back were the little demons that had taken human form. They clamored endlessly, jumping high into the air, wishing to watch a good show. Ao Wang pointed at Li Yunxin and said to Bai Yunxin, "My king, you see, it is him. He came to my lake and made a mess. He said he wanted to take over Dongting. I sent someone to ask him, where is Dongting? It is the fishing ground of the golden-winged rock king. How can he take over Dongting?" Who knew that this arrogant person said, Dao. Dao. The first part of his speech was very smooth. He was really eloquent. But when it came to the second part he stuttered. His eyes rolled around but he just couldn't think of what to say. The Red Snake King was so anxious that he kept coughing but it didn't work. He pulled Ao Wang aside and spoke on his behalf. He said, "What is the heart of White Cloud? Even if she comes she will never return. She will be skinned, her feathers will be plucked to make a fan, and her legs will be used as drumsticks." Ao Wang hurriedly pulled her away, afraid that Bai Yunxin would vent her anger on him. The Red Snake King was addicted to talking and he asked the other 3 cave masters one by one, "Is it true?" The old tortoise saw that his daughter was also here, and he felt that he had someone to rely on. If it wasn't for his bad tongue he would have said all these things. He hurriedly nodded and added a few more details. Only the Toad King of Xianxia Valley was a little smarter. He just hummed and agreed but didn't say anything. He pretended to tie the belt on his robe. The snake spirit usually didn't like him so she kept asking. The Toad King still didn't say anything. He just tied the belt higher and higher and it almost reached his chest. The snake spirit glared at him fiercely, spat in her heart and turned around to add more details. Ao Wang didn't say much but the snake spirit spoke very quickly. After all this not much time had passed. Li Yunxin landed on the ground, walked a few steps and bowed to Bai Yunxin. "I have to thank you first." The monsters were so noisy that they couldn't hear what he said, but they only saw his movements. Therefore they knew that this demon was afraid of Bai Yunxin so they made even more noise. Bai Yunxin was lazy before, but now that she had waited for the person she wanted to see, she finally became a little more energetic. So she sat on the throne, and coldly stared at Li Yunxin for a while and said, "You don't have to thank me. I'm not helping you, I'm helping the Ghost Emperor. I owe him a promise and now I've paid it. So now it's time to talk about the matter between us." Li Yunxin put down his hand and straightened his body. "I'm sorry I killed your 9th young master. But this matter is very difficult. If I don't kill him he will kill me sooner or later. Now that he's dead I've become him. The body and soul that you like are still there. If I die you'll lose a love." Bai Yunxin originally had a lot of questions to ask him, but now that he said it like this, she couldn't say anything shamelessly. It was the first time she met such a person so she opened her eyes wide and was stunned for a moment. The young maid beside her giggled and whispered a few words into Bai Yunxin's ear. They looked like a pair of master and servant in the mortal world. But when Li and Bai were talking the monsters couldn't hear it clearly, but they felt that it wasn't something good. So they were even more proud. Now that they saw the maid's action they were stunned. The voices stopped for a while and finally they heard what Li Yunxin was saying. They saw him casually walk to Bai Yunxin's side, pick up a few trinkets on her throne, take a look and then throw them away. As he threw them he walked around her like he was taking a walk and said, "Now things are even easier. You see, this is what I think. You walk around in the secular world but you still want to imitate the behavior of the secular people. I can see that you're empty and lonely and also very cold. I think you're also an interesting person and you must think that there aren't many people in the world who deserve to be your friend. For example, these idiots." Li Yunxin raised his hand and pointed at the group of quiet monsters. "They all think they're very smart but they don't know that in our eyes they're stupid. To find me you let them gather here and you put up with their noise for so long. I feel sorry for you." After saying these words he walked to Bai Yunxin's side and said softly, "Why do you hurt yourself like this?" Listen to the shameless things that the snake spirit had said, and she herself was so proud of herself. "Let's not talk about these things and talk about us. Now I'm in the true state." Hearing his words and seeing that Bai Yunxin didn't get angry and didn't do anything, the monsters slowly felt that something was wrong. Now hearing Li Yunxin say that he was in the true state, they all knew what it meant and they were all stunned. At this moment even the stupid monsters understood that Li Yunxin seemed to have been in contact with Bai Yunxin in the past. But who would know about this? I'm in the true state and so are you. At this time I'm not afraid of you and I think it's not bad to be friends with you. Li Yunxin looked at her, but Bai Yunxin's face was wooden. Maybe she was too lazy to make an expression or she knew what expression to make. Li Yunxin thought it was the latter. In the past the 9th young master wanted to be friends with me, but in fact he only wanted to treat me as a plaything. He didn't realize it and it's very sad. This is the limitation of class. Now I'm not a plaything anymore and I can finally talk to you like this. Li Yunxin said this but paused a little. There were a few words that he wanted to blurt out, just like what he had said to Ling Kongzi and Red Madam before. However, there was a sudden stuffy feeling in his heart, and he forcibly suppressed the words in his throat. Seeing her Miss didn't say anything, the maid hurriedly said it for her. She looked at Li Yunxin with the terrible naive and pure expression that only monsters had and said with a smile, "So, you've done all these things just to be worthy of my miss and to be friends with her?" In the past, Li Yunxin would probably answer her calmly, and then say a lot of sweet words to coax her. He could even try to use the environment here to do some good things. The fire behind the water wall was bright and dim, and it was the most suitable to use words to confuse the mind. However, he continued to be stunned for 2 breaths and then sighed with a smile, "Not really. It's just the situation. I used to be a human and I didn't dare to make friends with monsters." Hearing his words, the maid pouted. But Li Yunxin felt the stuffy feeling in his chest was gone. He felt much better. "Now I'm still a monster." Bai Yunxin stood up from the throne, took 2 steps and turned to look at Li Yunxin. "So am I." Li Yunxin smiled and spread out his hands. "I have the body of a monster and the brain of a human. You can't find a better friend than me. Besides, the world is going to be in chaos and one more friend means one more way." Bai Yunxin didn't say anything and looked at him with her head tilted like a bird, as if she was making a decision. Li Yunxin made the decision for her. He smiled affectionately. "There's nothing to be shy about. You liked me the first time we met and then you helped me when you learned that I killed the 9th young master. You still kept your promise but it doesn't mean that you can't kill me by helping him. You're not angry with me anymore. And the current situation is perfect for you. You're just a little upset but you're really like a lady in a boudoir. I think it's interesting. Moreover, you helped me gather all these demons together. First, you can say that you're trying to scare me and second you're trying to be nice to me. You're just a little girl's little thoughts. You're really cute." As he said this, he took 2 steps forward and waved his hand casually. The powerful demonic power of the true state great demon pierced into the crowd. The first one was the Red Snake King who turned into a cloud of blood mist in the blink of an eye. Then the group of little demons behind her who didn't know what happened were scattered all over the ground. With just 1 sentence, Li Yunxin plowed a path of blood among the demons. And he didn't even look at them, he just smiled gently at Bai Yunxin and shook his head. "She said a lot of bad things about you just now. I don't like it." Bai Yunxin tilted her head and looked at the group of frightened demons, the path of blood, and then looked at Li Yunxin. After a moment of silence, she finally showed a faint but beautiful smile. "I don't like it either." "Then I'll kill them all. Hurry up. I still have something to say to you." Li Yunxin grinned. "Good girl. Soon." Then he waved his sleeves wildly and rushed towards the group of demons. Chapter 239. The demons only knew that Li Yunxin's cultivation level was higher, but they didn't have a concrete idea. Now that they knew he was at the true realm and saw him kill the Scarlet Snake King with a raise of his hand, they realized how terrifying he was. It was a strength that exceeded their understanding. Thus, after being stunned for a moment, they scattered like birds and beasts. Only the Valley Master of Xianxia Valley and the Scarlet Flame Vermilion Toad King stood motionless, as though they were watching from the sidelines. This action saved his own life. The demons scattered, but they couldn't escape the control of the true realm great fiendish demon. Li Yunxin waved his sleeves in midair, and dozens of demonic powers went straight for a few famous great fiendish demons. With such a difference in cultivation level, regardless of technique or scheming, his demonic powers would kill anyone who came into contact with them. His demonic power killed anyone who came into contact with it. In just 2 breaths of time, those valley masters and stream masters were all killed by him. Those little demons were also thrown into the water like dumplings. After a while they disappeared. 15 minutes ago the island was still bright and bustling. It was still bright now. But these 2 words had to be said separately. The fire was bright and the ground was covered in rotten flesh. The white beach had been dyed red and the lake water had changed color. There were only 5 people left standing. Bai Yunxin and her servant, Li Yunxin, as well as the Toad King and the father of Bai Yunxin's servant girl, the 1,000-year-old turtle demon. The 2 valley masters in the lake weren't good people usually, and they had taken countless demon and human lives. But had they ever seen such a method of killing? Li Yunxin was very powerful and he didn't have a demon's body or heart. He was vicious and merciless when killing fiendish demons, so he didn't hesitate at all. He spared the Toad King because his attitude was different from before, and spared the turtle demon because of Bai Yunxin's servant girl. Li Yunxin landed from the sky, and the flesh under his feet crunched noisily as he walked to the Toad King and looked down at him. Although the Toad King's expression didn't change, he didn't look very panicked. He raised his head slightly to meet Li Yunxin's gaze and said, "They were courting death, so I had no choice but to obey. But it's just waving flags and shouting battle cries. It's not a capital offense. So you look like a smart person." Li Yunxin reached out and patted his shoulder. He turned to look at Bai Yunxin's maid. "Little girl, what about your father?" The maidservant did not speak. She snorted and turned her head away from him. Seeing this, Li Yunxin sighed in his heart. Normally he probably wouldn't use such a bloody and brutal method to wash the beach with blood. But normally he wouldn't kill all the other demon kings, leaving only these 2 alive. It was because of what Su Weng had said to him in the Emperor Star Palace. Although the real situation and thoughts might be different from what Su Weng knew, it still touched Li Yunxin. Killing all the demons was due to the excitement in his heart. Leaving these 2 alive was also due to the excitement in his heart. But now, it seemed that the demons were truly heartless. But their heartless was only compared to the emotions of the mortals. The cultivators of Daotong were probably not in this category. He spared the turtle spirit's life for some reason, but he didn't know what this opportunity meant to the turtle spirit. The maidservant ignored the old thing and the turtle spirit was not angry like a human. On the contrary, he had a look of relief on his face as he glanced at Li Yunxin from side to side. His eyes were full of flattery and worry, but it appeared on his wrinkled face. Li Yunxin looked at him and felt annoyed for no reason. He shouted, "Come out." As soon as he said that, a demon suddenly came out of the blood-like lake. It was Li Shan who was left behind by Li Yunxin. This demon fell into the water but didn't leave. He followed behind Li Yunxin to this island. Although he didn't show himself, he didn't run away. For a demon, this was considered a great display of loyalty and courage. Li Yunxin didn't care how this demon looked or what he was thinking. He just said, "Since you 3 are old friends, you can teach them well. All the small things in this lake can be dealt with at the same time. I just want a docile dong ting. Think about the blood sea today if there is any trouble." Li Shan saw that his king didn't blame him, so he was very happy. He said yes repeatedly. Then he raised a pair of invisible eyes and fiercely shouted at the 2 demons to go to the lake. There were only 3 people left on the red beach. 3 demons. Before, Bai Yunxin had been sitting on the throne and watching Li Yunxin do things and talk. Now she finally spoke. But her voice was different from before. She became more human. Before, Bai Yunxin was like a volcano that would erupt at any time. You listened to her and watched her do things like ordinary people. But in the next moment she might show her fangs and raise her hand to kill you. But now her voice sounded calmer and softer, as if the waves and anger in her heart had been calmed down a lot. It also seemed that she had lost interest in many things and just looked at the world lazily. They are not simple. You should talk to them. Bai Yunxin looked at Li Yunxin with a strange look in her eyes. "I knew you were not simple, but I didn't expect you to be so complicated. Just boring." Li Yunxin thought about her words for a while. "You mean they may have something to do with the dragon soul in this lake?" Besides, he couldn't think of anything else that could make Bai Yunxin, a demon in the real realm, feel not simple. "Yes. But you don't have to worry about it. You won't have to worry about it soon." She paused and tilted her head to look at Li Yunxin. Li Yunxin realized that this temperamental true state demon seemed to be hiding something in his heart, so she waited quietly. It was probably related to the sentence, "You are also boring." The little maid stood beside Bai Yunxin and didn't say anything under the firelight. The little black donkey stood behind the throne for a while and felt bored. It lowered its head and sniffed the sand. But there was no grass. It smelled some flesh and blood that splashed on it. It licked it with its tongue and slowly ate it. Then Bai Yunxin sighed, "Why do you want to be a demon? Isn't it good to be alive?" Li Yunxin thought for a while. What happened? Bai Yunxin stood up. Her real body was probably a crane. It was known for its slender elegance. Therefore her human body was also longer. She wore a white dress and walked slowly on the bloody beach. She put her hands behind her and lowered her head. She looked like an ordinary girl walking in the night wind. She walked a few steps and turned to look at Li Yunxin. "I'm the adopted daughter of King Rock. Do you know that?" Li Yunxin walked slowly to her and walked side by side with her on the beach. "I know. Daotong is going to war with demons." Bai Yunxin looked at Li Yunxin slightly. The breeze with the smell of blood brushed her cheek and a strand of hair passed her lips. This made her look a little decadent and blurred, but her eyes were bright and sparkling. People of Daotong set up a lot of magic circles outside the city of Wei. They probably need the yang qi of hundreds of thousands of people in the city of Wei and magic circles to destroy the inhibition of Dongting. Yang qi and magic circles of hundreds of thousands of people. Li Yunxin followed her words and thought for a while. It's equivalent to a full blow from a cultivator in the state of Guangxing in mystery. It's still a bit difficult to destroy the inhibition of Dongting with this kind of power. Bai Yunxin still didn't answer him directly. She said again, "My adoptive father asked me to take something. I'll leave immediately after I take it, because this inhibition is not as strong as you think. The Daoist outside has set it up. This place can't be defended." Li Yunxin was slightly stunned. "You come to take the dragon's soul?" "Yes. My adoptive father is King Rock. He is the master of all feathers in the world." Bai Yunxin said softly, "Shinryu is the most respected demon in the world. But my adoptive father is not a subordinate of Shinryu but an ally. When demons and Daotong fight, Shinryu needs my adoptive father's help. But my adoptive father doesn't want to be involved in this matter." So, Li Yunxin thought for a while. He intends to do something else and pay some other price in exchange for his transcendental status outside. Bai Yunxin smiled slightly. "It's easy to talk to you." It was the first time for Li Yunxin to see her smile like this. It was a smile without any malice, just to release kindness or emotion. This made him feel more abnormal. Bai Yunxin must have something else in her mind. "Then you come to take the dragon's soul to ensure that it doesn't fall into the hands of Daotong people. It's a favor to Shinryu, but why doesn't Shinryu do it himself? Why doesn't Dragon's son do it himself?" "It's hard for you to answer." Li Yunxin frowned. "Is that the only thing? There's more. There are not many big demons. You are a big demon now. The true dragon needed more great fiendish demons. But there are differences among demons in the same realm. Dragons are the strongest." Bai Yunxin breathed a sigh of relief. "Shinryu needs more dragons." Li Yunxin stopped. After a moment of silence he said, "Don't tell me. There are also such things as marriage among the demons?" Bai Yunxin turned around and looked at him. "Why not? You and Shinryu? With Dragon's son?" Li Yunxin was silent for a while and said, "Who?" "Not you." Bai Yunxin smiled. "You said I was a good friend before, but I know you were lying. I'm not like the Red Lady who can be easily deceived like that. The first time you were afraid that I would kill you. The second time you wanted to use me. Now you probably want to ask me how to get in and out of Dongting. My foster father told me these things in detail. I think it makes sense. Now I'm just here to tell you how to get out of Dongting. I thought you were interesting before. Although you are boring now, you have helped me out." After Bai Yunxin said this, she suddenly leaned close to him and whispered something in his ear. It reminded Li Yunxin of the first time he met Bai Yunxin in the forest. After whispering, her soft breath still existed. Bai Yunxin didn't say a word. She just waved her sleeves and rolled up the demon wind. She took her donkey and went straight to the sky. Those words were to tell him how to get out of Dongting. The way was simple, but he just became a demon and no one told him. Li Yunxin stood still for a while, but the little maid didn't leave. It seemed that she wanted to say something but didn't know whether she should say it or not. She suddenly looked at Li Yunxin and then at the direction where her lady escaped. After repeating this several times, she sighed and stamped her feet. She was about to escape too. Li Yunxin said, "Please wait." His words were like a life-saving straw. The maid breathed a sigh of relief and stood down. Li Yunxin stepped on the pool of blood on the beach and approached her. He cupped his hands and saluted. "Miss, you saved me before. I haven't thanked you yet. What's your name?" The maid didn't want to be polite to him. She first looked at the direction where Bai Yunxin escaped and then got closer to Li Yunxin. She stared at him with her eyes wide open. "Do you know why my lady asked you that you were boring and why she asked you, it's not good to be alive?" Li Yunxin cupped his hands again. "I'm about to ask you about this." The maid sighed. "Alas. I heard that you are very famous in the city of Wei recently. Why do you look so stupid now? Let me ask you, you have seen a lot of demons and you have become a demon yourself. Have you ever heard of a big demon couple?" Li Yunxin was stunned for a while and then realized what the maid meant. For a long time he had never heard of a demon couple. Two demons who got married and lived together. Red Lady and Du Xing were husband and wife, but Red Lady said that she didn't touch him after the secret marriage. Du Xing was not a real demon. He frowned and asked, "I haven't heard of it. Why is that?" The maid stared at him as if she wanted to see his reaction after hearing the following words. "You know that demons are not human. When people marry and become pregnant, a child will be born. Demons marry. Demons of the same kind naturally get pregnant and have parents to raise them. But there are so few demons in the world and they all have different levels of cultivation. How can there be so many demons of the same kind? Just like how he is a green ox that attained the Tao, she is a lioness that attained the Tao. The two get married and turn into human beasts. The green bull's demonic power and essence enter the lioness body and form a baby with the lioness's demonic power. But the baby is neither a green bull nor a lioness. We only know that it is a demon fetus. Who knows where it comes from? Such a thing must collide with the demonic power of the lioness. The bigger the demon fetus grows, the weaker its mother will be. The day it's born will be the day of its mother's death. Are you listening or not?" The maid couldn't help but be anxious when she said this. Because she looked at Li Yunxin as she spoke, but found that his expression was calm, and she couldn't see any emotional fluctuation. After a while she saw Li Yunxin take a step back and said softly, "Oh, so that's it. This kind of thing. No wonder your miss is too shy to talk about it." Seeing him like this, the maid was disappointed in her heart. Hearing him say this, he added 3 more points. In the end he revealed his true nature as a demon and became angry. She suddenly raised her eyebrows. "Li Yunxin, you're really something." She didn't know what to say after saying this. After a long time she said, "Do you think my miss wants to say it but doesn't want to say it?" "Bah. She doesn't want to say it. I thought you were a human and had a conscience, so I told you." Li Yunxin laughed. "Conscience? How can a demon have a conscience?" After saying this, the maid was finally completely disappointed. She seemed to want to kill Li Yunxin according to her temper, but she knew she was no match for him. She wanted to scold him, but she felt that she would be a joke if she got angry at this kind of person. Her heart was mixed with emotions and she actually cried. 2 big tears fell into the pool of blood. She stomped her feet and followed her miss. Only Li Yunxin was left in the same place. Against the sky full of fire, he gradually frowned. Chapter 240. He thinks quietly for a moment and doesn't say anything. He just stands up again and goes straight to Mount June. He lands in the middle of the mountain at the square of the nave and goes straight to the west. The east side of the square is a cliff and the west side is a green forest. There are rockery pavilions in the middle and few people go there. He walks into the forest and doesn't rush to do business. Instead he takes out some paper and a magic brush from his folding fan. Both Daotong and the School of Painting need these 2 things. However, it doesn't mean that they can't use their skills without them. Usually some small skills only need hand gestures and incantations. When they fight they usually burn the written and painted magic figures. When they really need to use paper and brush, it is during the preparation before the war and when they set up the magic circle. Li Yunxin has the body of a demon dragon and is extremely powerful. Usually he can solve many problems with only brute force. Therefore these days he doesn't even realize that the skills of the school of painting are slowly becoming useless. Now he takes out these things again, spreads the paper in the air and holds the magic brush to paint. Only then does he realize that his breath is a little bit blocked when he writes. His thoughts are not as smooth as before. Thinking about it carefully, he almost hasn't had a good rest these days. His parents taught him the art of cultivation. Now he says he is in the real state, but in terms of skills he is probably just the same as when he was in the city of Wei, far better than those painting Taoists in the same state of the transcendent state. However, there is still a long way to go before he reaches the real state. With this idea to remind himself, he makes a few magic figures. Then he puts away the paper and brush and strolls in the forest. With the help of hand gestures and incantations he takes out all the magic figures. There is no change in the forest. The canopy still covers the sky. He can't see the moon and stars. There is no sound of insects in the forest. However, there are endless wacken flowing on the treetops and branches. Occasionally there are some flying lights. It is a common phenomenon that neither Li Yunxin nor his parents have carefully studied. Now he takes out his folding fan and floats it in front of him with Reiki. Bai Yunxin tells him how to get out of Dongting. Almost all demons with high Taoism have a temporary palace. In Li Yunxin's eyes, it was similar to a storage bag or a space bag. When a demon's demonic power reaches a certain level along with some incense's power of will, it can condense into something like that. It doesn't have a fixed shape, it comes from the deepest level of one's heart's desire. Some people might have a barrel, some a rock and some a sword. The palace was small. If his dermic powers were stronger he would grow bigger and become a dragon palace. The term temporary residence was understandable, but the term dragon palace made Li Yunxin a little confused. Since all the demons in the world might have such a thing, why was it crowned with the word dragon? It was probably related to Shinryu in some way. Now that the dragon palace was completed, people could enter. Lord Dongting's Red Flower City was like this, and so was Li Yunxin's folding fan. However, there was still a crucial point. The dragon palace was like a house. Master entered the dragon palace through the front door. The house had a back door. The dragon palace also had a back door. But the back door had to be opened by himself. And the method of opening the back door sounded even more unusual to Li Yunxin. When he was first told about this, he already felt like it was a strange system created by someone. But now this feeling was even stronger. You have to enter your own dragon palace, choose a location and open the back door. From then on, no matter where you are, as long as you enter the dragon palace and leave through the back door, you will return to the location you chose before. But this method couldn't be used often. According to Bai Yunxin, that was the place where the spiritual power of the dragon palace leaked out. If it was used frequently, it might cause the dragon palace to collapse, which wasn't worth it. The matter was clear and distinct from the point of view of the rules. But the problem was, as a demon's method, it wasn't very mystical. This made Li Yunxin think of some low-level and crude setting. Without any reason or explanation, it's just like that, with some restrictions. This, together with some small details before, often made him feel an unknown fear from the bottom of his heart. There might be some secret hidden in this strange world. But based on what he knew now, those secrets probably weren't gentle and beautiful. He wasn't afraid of facing danger, but he was afraid of not knowing where the danger might be, which made him feel uneasy. So he tried to suppress this little bit of uneasiness in his heart. The next moment he disappeared from the forest. He appeared in his dragon palace. Just like the last time he came here, this place was full of mist. In the past there were some scattered objects and food inside. But a few days ago they were used up to deal with Su Wang. Li Yunxin didn't like this feeling. A lot of things could be hidden in the mist, which made him feel like he was being watched. It wasn't a good sign that the situation was out of his control, so he tried his best to avoid it. The last time he came here, this dragon palace was still full of white mist. He couldn't tell up from down, left from right, and there were no boundaries. But when he entered this time, he was taken aback. Something was here. A small world appeared in the mist, like a dense forest. The trees in the forest were towering, verdant and verdant. The forest was decorated with all kinds of flowers and plants, and colorful butterflies were flying. The dragon palace was very quiet. He could even hear the melodious chirping of birds. Li Yunxin looked at the world from a strange perspective. He was like a creator looking down from the sky. So he could see an open space in the forest, and on the open space, there was a courtyard with 2 entrances. The courtyard looked very dilapidated, with weeds growing between the courtyard and the gaps between the tiles. Looked familiar. Li Yunxin quickly realized that he had indeed seen that courtyard and been to that courtyard. Wasn't that the courtyard that Su Weng showed him where Lu Laodao, Shirquizi and Sanhua were trapped? It was actually in his dragon palace. This surprise made him subconsciously walk toward the courtyard. With this thought, the scenery quickly zoomed in. The next moment he was already standing outside the courtyard. When he looked up at the sky, he found that there was no sun in the sky, but the sun was shining brightly. Everywhere he looked there was mist, probably the kind of mist in his dragon palace. He raised his hand to touch the door in front of him, and immediately felt the texture of the rotten wood and the scratching of the paint on the door. Li Yunxin took a deep breath and pushed the door open. With a squeak, he saw the courtyard full of weeds and 2 people standing in the courtyard. Black Knife Juren stared at him as if he had seen a ghost. Lu Laodao noticed Black Knife's gaze and slowly turned his face to look at him. He was about to speak. As for the people in the courtyard, Lu Laodao just realized that there might be something wrong here. Black Knife had just woken up from a hallucination that lasted more than 10 days. He once again remembered what the fake Lu Laodao had said. Chapter 241. Before the old man who once lived with Li Yunxin in the Dragon King Temple in City of Wei spoke, Li Yunxin had already walked through the door. Just like when he was in City of Wei, he pushed open the door and came back from the street at dusk. He did certain things and met certain people. Lu Laodao did not know what he was planning, but he did not ask. He only told him how much sesame oil money was spent today, and which old woman came to ask if he had a sweetheart. A smile appeared on his face as he walked into the courtyard. He stared at old Daoist Lu and looked at him carefully and seriously. He let out a long breath. Good. It's me now and you're you. I'm here to take you out. He and Lu Laodao had not been apart for more than a month, but he felt that a lot of time had passed. However, neither of them liked to express their emotions, so they were calmer when they met each other, as if they had already expected this situation. But there were always people who were not calm enough. Juren, the Black Knife, rushed forward and stared at Li Yunxin. I've brought him here. But we lost some more. He immediately felt sorry. He first looked behind Li Yunxin and then looked around at the people in the courtyard. Do you know something strange happened? You're a person who knows Taoism. Can you tell me what's going on? Juren's behavior was abrupt and abnormal. The expression on his face did not look like that of an ordinary person either. It was more like something went wrong in his practice or something was wrong with his brain. Li Yunxin slightly frowned and looked at Lu Laodao. Lu Laodao went forward and comforted Juren with a few words, then briefly told Li Yunxin what had just happened. However, Black Knife thought that he was not being detailed enough, so he quickly took the lead and poured out everything he had seen. His expression was urgent and his tone was rapid, as if he were not speaking words, but poison forced into his body, and the sooner it was poured out, the better. Li Yunxin listened attentively and saw a few familiar faces. Wu Su, Lily and Yu Meng appear in the courtyard. But now he was not the person who hid his identity in the City of Wei. People knew that he was a demon, a deity, or the Wei River Dragon King, and their gazes towards him were 3 parts respectful and 4 parts fearful. Even if he had a lot of things to say, he couldn't just walk up, bow and open his mouth like that. Just like that, Li Yunxin listened to everything Juren said. Then she grabbed his left wrist and pulled him in front of her. She took out a talisman from nowhere and slapped it on Juren's forehead. The talisman spontaneously combusted when it came into contact with the wind, but the flame was fleeting, only burning a few strands of hair. Juren was defenseless in front of him like a weak scholar in the marketplace. After all this happened, he tried to break free and step back. Li Yunxin let go of him. Then he said, "Someone planted something in your spiritual consciousness so that you could pass it to me. Now I've helped you remove it, otherwise you would go crazy. Think again, the appearance of the old man, is it like this?" He raised his hand and drew in the air, and a lifelike figure appeared in the air. Juren had no time to be amazed by this magical ability. He just stared at it and said, Yes. Li Yunxin was silent for a while, then nodded slightly. Su Weng. After a while he said, what a great ability. Su Weng sent these people into his dragon palace, and even opened a back door for his dragon palace. Lu Laodao Sanhua and even Ing Juren came in through the back door. This kind of thing was like opening the door at night and coming home to find that the house was full of beautiful gifts, and at the same time the back door was opened. The gifts were not lost and there was even a surprise. But for a normal person, there was only surprise without joy. In Li Yunxin's eyes, this kind of thing was like a demonstration. After all, a demon's temporary imperial residence, the Dragon Palace, was the most secretive place. Logically, no one should be able to break in. Lu Laodao realized that something was wrong, so he came closer and asked in a low voice, "What's wrong?" Li Yunxin thought again, then said, "The door was broken into." At this moment he had already walked into the courtyard and the door was open behind him. The people in the courtyard didn't know what he meant by, "The door was broken into," but after hearing Ing Juran's words, they all thought that Black Saber's cultivation had gone awry, and he had fallen into qi deviation or was hallucinating. But now, seeing Li Yunxin's attitude, they knew that what Black Knife said might be true. For a moment they were a little anxious, not knowing what other unimaginable things would happen in this unimaginable world. But there was no more unimaginable things. After saying this, Li Yunxin turned around and walked out through the door again. Then he stood outside the door and waved at them, saying softly, "Come out." The people did not know why or where he was going. But Lu Laodao was the first to step out of the door. When they were in the courtyard, the sky was bright. Although they did not know where the sunlight came from, it was at least a sunny day. But now, as soon as they stepped out of this dilapidated courtyard, it was pitch black in front of them. Lu Laodao subconsciously grabbed Brother Xian's sleeve, and it took him a while to adapt to the darkness. After a while he found that the world was not completely dark. He was in a forest and there were light spots like fireflies flowing on the leaves. He felt the moist wind and there was a slight fishy smell in the wind. Li Yunxin smiled and said, "It's Mount June. There's a restriction formation blocking it, so it's safe." When he said this, Madame Gong slowly walked out, but Li Yunxin still said to Lu Laodao, "There's another person on Mount June, Red Lady. Maybe Bai Yunxin will also come. Red Lady, you've heard me talk about her. In a moment you go down the stairs to the front hall at the corner of the mountain. But there's nothing in there. You guys think of a way. Don't eat the fish and do whatever you want." He was telling them something. Hearing this, Lu Laodao was a little flustered, but he didn't let go of his sleeve. "Brother Xin, what about you?" When they walked out and looked back, they could no longer see the courtyard and the world. There was nothing in the forest. In fact, they walked out of Li Yunxin's folding fan. At this moment, Li Yunxin also looked at the folding fan in his hand, and then looked up at the west side of the forest. The west side was close to the square in front of the Ziwei Palace. He saw someone standing in the forest. That should be Red Lady. The princess in the lake didn't seem to care too much about the arrival of these people, but of course she didn't welcome them either. He and Red Lady looked at each other for a while in the dark forest, and then he turned to Lu Laodao and said, "I'll go out and have a look. I'll be back soon." He said this a little loudly so the person in the west should have heard him. So that person slowly walked away. Then Li Yunxin waved the folding fan in his hand. He disappeared into thin air. Chapter 242. He only says, "Go out and have a look." Others probably think he is going to the lake or outside Mount June. But when he shows up again, he is already in another forest. More than 10 days ago, Ing Juren and Yu Meng were thrown into the fog here and entered his dragon palace. The rat and the rabbit only think it is an inhibition, so they wander outside. They don't know that if they also went in, they can reunite. Now, someone opened the back door of his dragon palace here. That person is Su Weng. What a great ability. Li Yunxin sighs again in such a deep night. Since a long time ago, Bai Yanjun has expressed something similar to him. Some people are helping him. But that kind of help was not entirely out of unwarranted kindness. They are more like giving a person or some people some conditions and convenience to see how far they can go. Su Weng also shows the same idea. But they are all different. Li Yunxin doesn't know what kind of connection can bring them together, let alone what their purpose is. All he can do is to make use of those things to survive and strengthen himself as much as possible, hoping, from a possible chess piece to a decision-maker who can see the whole situation. A few days ago he was trapped in Dongting and didn't know how to solve the dangerous situation in front of him. Even if he had thousands of plans, it would be in vain if he couldn't break the inhibition. Now he finally gets out of trouble. The fog that used to linger here has disappeared. Li Yunxin gently tiptoes and floats on the branch like a shadow. He points on the branch again and jumps up between the branches and leaves. Finally he stands on the dense forest. He steps on a green leaf. The green leaf shakes with the wind and he also shakes with the wind. Looking to the south, it is a boundless wild forest. The forest in the dark is quietly dormant on the Weishui plain, like a gloomy ocean. Small sounds in the forest interweave into its deep and loud breathing. Nobody knows how many secrets are hidden in the shadow. He looks to the north again and sees the city of Wei. He has only been trapped in Dongting for more than 20 days, but it feels like a whole year. Even the city of Wei, just looking at him made him feel like a stranger. In fact, they were indeed strangers. The city of Wei in the past. The city of Wei at night, although there were lights that represented civilization, it was far from comparable to the world he came from. But now, the whole city of Wei was splendid and splendid. The city was so bright that even Li Yunxin's face, which was dozens of miles away from it, turned slightly red. The city of Wei was burning. Li Yunxin stood at the top of a tall tree and stared at the city he had lived in for a few months. Then he silently jumped down from the tree. A ball of mist appeared under the tree and Li Yunxin was hidden in it. At the same time he reappears in the woods on the west side of the middle hall of Ziwei Palace inside the inhibition of Dongting. He casually picked up his folding fan from somewhere. At this time the people he had just rescued had just walked into the square in front of the nave. He had to take care of these secular people. So the candle in the room was lit. Lu Laodao, Mrs. Sanhua, Shirquizi who was in a coma. Yumeng, Wusu, Lily and Ingjuren. They were standing or sitting but none of them showed special interest in the nave. Probably because they were restless. Li Yunxin sat on a table in the hall. Originally this table was a retro gift and was used as a table. But now he was not in the mood to sit on his knees behind the table obediently. For a person who had not knelt according to that rule since he was a teenager, that posture was indeed a kind of punishment. The hall was wide and deep. The candle only illuminated a small space in the hall, and most of it was hidden in the darkness. Maybe these people felt the same at this time, so they looked at Li Yunxin with some panic in their eyes. Li Yunxin sighed. He put his hands on his knees and leaned forward slightly to look at them, saying, "I understand. The situation is not very optimistic and you are not happy." He looked at Lu Laodao and Sanhua, nodding first. "Thank you for your hard work. Previously you did a good job. I could only survive because of you. Now the chief and pheasant can't be found. If they are alive or dead, I will definitely give you an explanation." Then he looked at Ingjuren. "I didn't expect you to really come. But I didn't expect so many things to happen and the city of Wei is finished. Without the city of Wei, are you interested in becoming pirates?" Ingjuren did not know whether they were serious or joking and did not know how to reply. He had seen Li Yunxin's ability and now that he came to such a place he felt that it was as magnificent as a royal palace. Although he had never seen a royal palace. So he was anxious and did not know what they meant by, "the city of Wei is finished." Then he saw Li Yunxin and cupped his hands to Yumeng. "Master Yu. We are fated to meet. I have news. Just now I saw the city of Wei was set on fire." Yumeng and Wu Suli were stunned. Then they heard Li Yunxin say, "It's not a fire, it's set on fire. You know, even the city walls are on fire. Probably the stinky Taoists of Daotong are setting up some array and also sacrificing the city of Wei. These people... what they do is even worse than me." They did not know what Yumeng was thinking, but Wu Su and Lily were first shocked, and then they did not know how they felt. Although it was impossible for a super big family like the Yu family to live in the city of Wei, and there would be branches in other countries and cities. But the main family was gone and the rest could not be considered as the Yu family. Those who were independent, and those who were finished, their young master's Yu family, was really gone. But the city of Wei was where they grew up. Suddenly hearing Li Yunxin say that the city was destroyed, the two girls only felt slightly bitter, and for a moment they thought of the beautiful times when they were young in the city. But Wuxia first sighed, alas. I hate those people that night. Li Yunqin already knew what happened in the city. Hearing her words, he knew that she wanted to say, I hate the Yu family is finished, the city of Wei is finished, but the people that night didn't get their retribution. He smiled, there's no need to hate. They're already dead. I looked into the city and saw the sky full of grievances turned into spiritual energy. Without hundreds of thousands of casualties, there would not be such a big battle. He looked at the two girls and then at Yu Meng, the people you hate are also dead. Hearing this, Yu Meng's face finally showed obvious surprise. You mean, how? Wuxia and Lily were stunned for a longer time. When her young master finished speaking, she cried out in shock, how could this be? Thinking for a moment, she asked, aren't they afraid of this? Li Yunqin did not answer this question but stood up and paced a few steps. Then he asked, Master Yu, now that things have come to this, what are your plans? Yu Meng had always been in low spirits and seemed to have no interest in anything. When she first met Li Yunqin, she was a completely different person. Hearing Li Yunqin's question, she slowly raised her head, looked at him for a while and said, I just want to know, that day when I saved you by the roadside and then brought you into the city, did you deliberately harm my family? Li Yunqin thought for a moment. I didn't mean to harm your family. Wuxia and Lily frowned and wanted to ask further. But Li Yunqin continued. For example, your family does business and sells cloth. You want to go to the city of Hun to monopolize the market, so you want to take over a few big shops, and then lower the prices so that the small shops either go bankrupt or invest. In the end, you might even be kind enough to help those bankrupt merchants. At least you didn't force them to a dead end. For those small merchants, you didn't mean to harm them. He looked at Yu Meng. You should know, if you think about how they will live when you do things, what they will eat and wear in the future, you won't succeed. Hearing this, Wuxia and Lily frowned even more. They wanted to question him again, but he continued to speak. He even smiled. But that's not what I want to say. In this case, the Yu family is me. You want to monopolize the market, that's what I want to do in the city of Wei. But your family can't compete with those small shops. As for you, you are the smaller peddlers and pawns who relied on those small shops to survive after they went bankrupt. I may know what will happen to the small shops, but I'm sorry. I really don't know what will happen to those small merchants. He sighed. Sometimes you say, the affairs of the Immortals. Now you are involved in the affairs of the Immortals. Lily finally spoke after a moment of silence. But, that's our family, Li Yunqin nodded. I understand. After all, that's your home. Killing a random thief by the roadside, he is also an extremely important person to many people. If you look carefully, everyone is important and alive, to themselves. But the problem is, you still don't understand what affairs of the Immortals means. Ordinary people probably couldn't follow Li Yunqin's train of thought, so Yu Meng and the two girls didn't speak immediately. On the contrary, Ingjuren couldn't help but say, Humph. You're good at seizing those poor people. But at this time, don't you care? Li Yunqin paced 2 steps and stood still. He looked at the 4 secular people and said slowly, it may be hard to understand, but let me explain it to you. According to you, when the Daoist priests of Daotong came to your house, your master went to welcome them. At that time he was still thinking about how to bargain. Li Yunqin sighed slightly. Your master is a first-class figure in the city of Wei, but he already knew that he couldn't refuse those people. So he only thought about how to get some benefits and take advantage of some power. He should have never thought that he would be killed. In his eyes, it was impossible, beyond his common sense. Chapter 243. Then your family had that kind of thing happen. You all started to feel that it was unbelievable. At that time, did you ever think of going to the capital to find some nobleman to help you? Li Yunqin looked at Yu Meng and shook his head. I don't think so. Because they knew the noblemen in the capital probably couldn't help. They were immortals. But you still didn't expect that they didn't even care about the people in the city of Weiqing. Just like what you want to ask. How could they not care? How could they do that? But these questions are very unreasonable. Li Yunqin was silent for a while. There is no justice in the world now. To you, justice is in the court. But the court is supported by people from Daotong and Kenzhou. Now the immortals don't care about justice. What can the court do? So you see, something happened in the city of Weicheng. The magistrate of the Zhao family ran away. The court didn't send anyone to help. Because they knew it was Dao Tong and Kenzo's business, they didn't dare to interfere. Now that the city is destroyed, they also don't dare to interfere, because Dao Tong and Kenzo want to protect the people. And now, so many people of the world were being sacrificed. This must be for the sake of protecting the people of the world. This kind of thing. Li Yunxin shook his head slightly. The more people die, the more righteous it is. Because in your hearts, the authority of the emperor will not do evil. And in the hearts of the emperors, the highest authority of Daotong will not do evil. Whether they are willing or not, once evil is committed, the perpetrator will be the victim. Do you understand what I'm saying? Wu Su and Lily didn't quite understand the meaning of Li Yunxin's words and didn't know what to say. Ying Juren felt he understood a little, but the truth and logic was so scary that he felt hopeless and didn't know what to say. Only Yu Meng seemed to understand. He looked at Li Yunxin and pondered for a long time before asking, "In that case, if we help you in the future, we will be doing something of the greatest importance." His words made Li Yunxin smile. It was a smile that came from the bottom of his heart, a smile that came when he saw a smart person. It's the biggest thing. Li Yunxin let out a sigh of relief. It's the biggest thing in the world of immortals. I'm considered an immortal now. Now they were going against Dao Tong. In this world you will not find a more brilliant, more powerful opponent. There is no justice or justice in this world for your family's matters. If you work for me in the future, you will be going against the justice and justice of the world. If you don't have it, you can try to rob it like this. If I can't get it, there's nothing. Only if we can snatch it will we have an explanation. But what is more important is that this is more frightening than anything else. Because all your grievances, sufferings, injustices, and bullying, you can't find anything to rely on. You don't even have anything to rely on. Because you are going against the laws of this world. Yu Meng listened to Li Yunxin in a daze. After listening, he pondered for a while as if he was making a serious decision. Then he said, "People like us are at our wits' end. My father was killed by Dao Tong. In the future we will be in danger wherever we go. We won't be able to live a peaceful life anymore." Then he looked at Ying Juren. "This Black Blade hero, I guess you didn't live a happy life in the past. As the saying goes, seeking wealth comes from taking risks. If I want to follow you, I won't be surprised. But you are such a powerful person. It's not impossible for you to live a happy life by hiding your identity. Why do you want to do such a dangerous thing?" Ying Juren snorted in a low voice and raised his eyebrows. But he didn't refute Yu Meng's words. No one in the world could refute the evaluation of the Yu family of living a happy life. Unexpectedly, Li Yunxin suddenly laughed out loud. His laughter almost made the table tremble. He laughed for a while and then said, "Live a happy life? What kind of happy life are you talking about?" Li Yunxin seemed to be talking about a very funny thing. Traveling around the world with beautiful women is your happy life. But in my opinion, the most educated and reasonable women here don't even have the common sense of a primary school student. There are some interesting demons, but do you expect them to hide their identity like me? Scenery. The scenery in the world is not strange or magnificent in my eyes. Knowledge. Still the same. Maybe something that a primary school student said casually is enough for you to take hundreds or thousands of years of science and technology seriously. Not to mention movies, TV games, sports, popular songs, the sky and the universe. In fact, I have always wondered. Those people who went to ancient times to get married and have children, wouldn't the feeling of falling behind in their hearts drive them crazy? How can I put myself in their shoes and feel at ease? Now I finally know. I can't put myself in their shoes and feel at ease. So in this world, in this boring world, for me, what else is there that is really unknown and new? Li Yunxin spread his hands. Cultivation. Gods, demons, wild and unconstrained. These are the only reasons why I don't go crazy in this world. If I really hide my identity and live a happy life in your way, I might as well die. Yu Meng didn't really understand what he said. But Lu Laodao understood most of it. Laodao had been listening to Brother Xian talking to them. He was still listening now. But he felt he understood him better, the world he used to live in. Our world? Yu Meng frowned. What does that mean? Those words just now seemed to pour out Li Yunxin's passion. At this moment he became uninterested again. So he just smiled. It's like you have lived at home for more than 10 years, and now you suddenly have to go to the countryside to spend the rest of your life. Would you like that? Yu Meng thought for a while. If I can get my revenge, do you know the life in the countryside? Li Yunxin laughed. It's the life in the countryside, not the life of a country gentleman. You only light the oil lamp during festivals. You work at sunrise and rest at sunset. You don't have 3 meals a day and you only have 1 set of clothes every year. No one talks about martial arts and literature with you, and no one talks about history and romance with you. You just have to spend the rest of your life alone in a mud house. Would you like that? Brother Exen, look at this place. Is it really like this? Lu Laodao couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He never thought that the prosperous world in his heart was such a terrible and destitute life in Li Yunxin's eyes. Yu Meng was stunned at first, then he frowned. Is the world really like this in your eyes? If you really think it's so unbearable, maybe only the reincarnation of a deva would have such a thought. He wasn't being sarcastic, but he could only find such an appropriate analogy. Unexpectedly, Li Yunxin smiled. Just take it as it is. Everyone was stunned by his attitude. If it was an ordinary secular person who said this, everyone would think it was a joke and was pretending to be profound. But for a person like Li Yunxin to say this, no one knew if it was true or not. Li Yunxin finished speaking and sat down again, waiting for Yu Meng's reply. Yu Meng thought for a while, then asked, "But since you are a deity, you should know that us secular people are as insignificant as ants to Dao Tong. Why would you waste so much time talking about me? I heard that you all have the ability to turn stone into gold and ride on clouds. The wealth in the secular world to you is not that important, right?" But Wu Su and Lily knew that her young master's words meant that he really had some thoughts. He wanted to seriously make a decision. But the 2 girls didn't have a particularly good impression of Li Yunxin. His appearance made them a little more vigilant. Because he was even more beautiful than their young master. Most people think so. Li Yunxin nodded. The people of Daotong don't care about you secular people. After all, they are elites and their vision is limited by history and times. But here I know that the power of the people is the strongest. It's hard to explain and you won't understand even if I explain. But you only need to know that to the demons, you will become more and more useful in the coming era. Yu Meng didn't understand what he said, but he understood his attitude. This time he didn't ask any questions but fell into deep thought. After waiting for a while, Yu Meng raised his head and looked at Li Yunxin seriously. I understand your attitude, but I can't completely trust you. But I can tell you one thing, the Yu family hasn't been destroyed. Families like us will make some preparations in advance to prevent the worst from happening. Yu Meng said. The Yu family does too. Li Yunxin smiled. I understand, did your father tell you about this before? Yu Meng paused. Not yet. As a rule, I did not know of such things until the day I had a son. But I heard about it when I was a child. I was just 4 days old. Wu Su and Lily widened their eyes in surprise. Ying Juren also turned to look at young Master Yu in surprise. But Li Yunxin didn't change his expression. He only said, "It sounds like you're reincarnated by a deity." Yu Meng looked at Li Yunxin. Even if it's true, I can't remember what happened in my previous life. Maybe I'm just smarter than normal children. Normal children won't be possessed by a deity. Li Yunxin carefully looked at Yu Meng as if he wanted to see through him with his eyes. Then he casually waved his hand. Reincarnating and gaining intelligence early is more than you can imagine. It's just that you don't know. Let's not talk about these things. Then what? Then I want to leave this place and use all the manpower and resources. Yu Meng said in a deep voice. It might take a long time. But it's also a good time to walk around and think about whether I should help you or not. Okay. Li Yunxin agreed without hesitation. Then he thought for a while. Just a casual question. You're different from before. Is it because you were pretending before or because you suddenly gained intelligence recently? One thing. Yu Meng said stiffly. Li Yunxin smiled. Then please, I want to talk to my people about something private. Chapter 244. Yu Meng was stunned for a moment. The Yu family seldom talked with people in such a direct way, not to mention driving people out immediately after the discussion. But he didn't expect that Li Yunxin was more wicked than he thought. After saying this, he waved his sleeves. Yu Meng, Wu Su and Lily were all taken into the folding fan and thrown back to the small world. Then Li Yunxin looked at Ing Juren. What's your plan from now on? Ing Juren was still in a daze because of the scene just now. Now hearing his question, he hurriedly said, well, a gentleman's word. Okay. Then you are one of us. Li Yunxin waved his hand casually. Then let's talk business. Come in. The last sentence was said without any rhyme or reason. But as soon as he said that, they heard a sound. A woman in red leisurely walked in. Her clothes fluttered in the void even though there was no wind. She looked like a water god. It was Hong Yangzi. They hadn't seen her before, but Li Yunxin had seen her a lot. After all, it was the old residence of the Lord Dongting. He didn't mind Hong Yangzi eavesdropping. Maybe this was the task that the Lord Dongting left for her. Who could guess the thoughts of a fiendish demon? This is Hong Yangzi. Her father is the Lord Dongting. She is on the same boat with us. Li Yunxin paused and his face became serious. When I told you about the situation outside the city of Wei, I made it easy. But the fact is we have to be ready in 15 days at most. Dongting should be finished. Among these people, Lu Laodao knew Li Yunxin's speaking habits best. He was used to understating serious things. And once he really started to worry about something, it meant that it was indeed a big thing. So he took a deep breath and listened to Li Yunxin carefully. The sect master of the Langya cave is also in the city of Wei. It is said that the sect master Kun Wuzi is someone who has a say in front of the two sages. Now the city of Wei was massacred in front of his eyes. The hundreds of thousands of people in the city were all dead. This shows that this is Dao Tong's attitude. Li Yunxin spoke very quickly as if he was cherishing every minute and second. City of Wei is a big city, not a remote place. The massacre here shows that Dao Tong cares about the things in Dongting very much. I took a look at the tactical matrix outside the city of Wei for a while. Together with the mirror-like small magic circle outside the city you mentioned before. According to the operation of Reiki, it should be very powerful and can break the inhibition of Dongting with one blow. I previously speculated that Dao Tong wanted to use the dragon soul to declare war on the fiendish demons. It seemed that he had really made up his mind. I must have been marked there. After the inhibition is broken, I will probably be the first sacrifice. Li Yunxin thought for a while. We definitely can't sit still and wait for death. We have to run. Bai Yunxin has already come to take the dragon soul. If she really takes it, Dao Tong will just shoot blanks. But even if we can escape from Dongting, we may not be able to escape the pursuit. There may be a long distance and a long time between the city of Wei and the place we may find. So you guys brainstorm and tell me what to do. He said brainstorm, but in fact he only looked at Lu Laodao. Ing Juren may be a talented general, but he doesn't know these strange things. Only Lu Laodao has been with him for a long time, so he knows his style best. In fact, Lu Laodao knows Li Yunxin's style too well. Therefore he seems to blurt out a plan without thinking. How about, we find someone to be the scapegoat? The word scapegoat is a fashionable saying he learned from Li Yunxin. When he heard it, he felt it was 3 parts playful and 4 parts natural and unrestrained. Now he finally has a place to use it. Li Yunxin immediately smiled and pointed at him. I told you, old Lu, you understand me the best. Think so too. As for who to be the scapegoat, miss, since you want to participate in this matter, what do you think? It is the first time for Red Lady to see Li Yunxin like this. Not the kind of gentle softness when he was hypocritical with her before, but the kind of casual and unpretentious gentleness. She is very curious why an ordinary person like Lu Laodao can make Li Yunxin like him so much. Therefore she is not very happy. Therefore she wants to be angry, but she thinks that Li Yunxin told her before that he doesn't like that kind of woman. She can only sigh in her heart. You have found a way to get out. I should be the one to teach you. But now the situation. Red Lady bites her lips. Brother Jia was supposed to be in charge of Wei River, but it is actually occupied by big and small demons. There are also some demons on the land. If you stay with people for a long time, it may be stable. We have been neighbors for hundreds of thousands of years and we are familiar with each other. If you want to find someone, just find them. At this moment, Ing Juren has already understood what they are talking about, and then he is stunned. He thinks what kind of people are around Li Yunxin. They do wicked things and say wicked words without any psychological pressure, as if they are talking about everything under the sun. This red lady seemed to be a big demon. How could she sell her neighbors who had been living with her for hundreds of years? Li Yunxin is very happy, because this is part of his plan. But it is not all. He is silent for a moment and suddenly laughed to himself. What you say makes sense, but there is a more interesting way. Old Taoist Lu saw that he was in high spirits at the moment, so he played along and said, Brother Xian's idea must be even better. What is it? Li Yunxin steps up the stairs and opens his mouth happily. First, I have to let you know common sense about precipitation. Precipitation is rain. The land we live in is very, very big. Some countries are next to the sea, but more countries are inland. Our Qing kingdom is inland. So precipitation is mainly the water vapor condenses into clouds in the sky and then falls down. But far from the sea there is less water vapor, so there will be a drought. Do you understand this principle? Ingjuren also understands this principle. He thinks for a moment and says, yes. Usually the closer the water tank is, the warmer the house is. But this kind of thing like rain is not Dragon King. That is the problem I want to talk about. Li Yunxin says with a smile and even stands up again to walk a few steps as if he likes his new idea very much. Logically speaking, with so many places inland, there should be a drought a long time ago. But look around the city of Wei, there used to be paddy fields. This is because there are many large rivers. Another reason is the Dragon King of all the water systems in the world. The sky will make some rain by itself, and the rest is replenished by the Dragon King from different places. A little demon disguised as the so-called Dragon King may enjoy 3 animals and only rain once a month. But there are so many Dragon Kings in the world, big and small, and the rainfall is very significant. Because of them there is no drought. Originally, Sanhua was sitting quietly and playing with her hair, not saying a word. Hearing Li Yunxin say 3 animals, she suddenly raises her head and looks around, but found nothing, so she continues to stare blankly. Li Yunxin glances at her and continues to talk. But now Dao Tong is courting death, starting a war with the demons. They have already killed all the demons near the city of Wei, right? In the future they will also want to kill all the demons in the world. Then the problem is, if all the little demons are dead, where can they find so many monsters to make Dragon King? Without these replenishing rainfall, will the world be in a drought? If the world is in a drought, will people have no way to live? Will people agree? When he said this, the few of them suddenly came to a realization. They think this is very reasonable, but why didn't they think of it before? Li Yunxin shows off considerately, it's not your fault that you can't think of it. In this world, demons are part of the ecological chain. There are no biologists among the people of Dao Tong, and they lack basic scientific knowledge. Naturally, they can't think of the effect of removing a group of people from the ecological chain. If there's anyone else who's smarter, it's only 100 years ago that they've realized this. Lu Laodao is happy listening to his words, and feels that he has learned a lot of scientific and cultural knowledge that Brother Xian often talks about. Because of this happiness, his mind is more active and he has a flash of inspiration. Brother Xian means, Li Yunxin smiles, tell me about it. Let's tell the world about this. When the world knows about this, Dao Tong and Kenzo will gradually lose their popularity. Although they are good at Taoism, they can't be the enemy of the world. Li Yunxin nodded. The general direction is right. But the details need to be adjusted. For example, ecological precipitation. The people of Dao Tong don't know much about it, let alone the people. It's useless to reason with them, they won't listen. So we have to let them suffer first. Let Dao Tong really get rid of the demons in the world and cause a drought, then those people will learn a lesson. But if most of the demons are dead, it's useless to learn a lesson in the future. So we have to save some and put them somewhere. In the future they will be our people, and then let them out to benefit the world. And before that, Li Yunxin looked at Red Lady. We have to do as you said. We have to sell all the great fiendish demons with a bit of Tao in the vicinity to the Daoist orthodoxy. It's like killing with a borrowed knife. He pauses and smiles again, but we have to have a good reason. I propose that since we want to protect the little demons in the world that we can use, then our organization will be called the Little Demon Protection Association, or Little Demon Protection for short. Do you support it? The 2 people and 2 demons in the room look at each other, not knowing what made Li Yunxin so happy. But in the end they feel that what he said makes sense and this strange name is also appropriate. Of course they support it. Speaking up to this point, Li Yunxin claps his hands. That's good. Then the meeting is adjourned. The specific details will be decided later. If there's anything else, I'll talk to you. Hero Ing Juren responds. Li Yunxin smiles, waves his hand and puts him into the folding fan. Then he nods at Red Lady again. Go and rest. Red Lady feels that his behavior tonight is a little strange, but she doesn't know what is strange. But this kind of strange attitude is better than his usual cold attitude, so she shows a beautiful smile, wants to say something but finally walks out. Sanhua doesn't seem to like to listen to these things that she can't understand. After hearing Li Yunxin's words, she jumps out of the window early, and no one knows where she went to play. Only Li Yunxin, Lu Laodao and the unconscious Shirkuizi are left in the hall. At this time the joy on Li Yunxin's face dissipates. He first walks to Shirkuizi's side and carefully examines her, then closes his eyes to think and turns to Lu Laodao. She's not dead yet. I have some life-suppressing methods and talismans here. Although she won't wake up after using them, her condition won't worsen. If you are willing, I can give it a try. Maybe we can find a way in the future. She is immortal without any foundation. If her cultivation is more profound, it will be easier. Lu Laodao nods silently. Li Yunxin solemnly and seriously drew in the void, using a beam of golden light to subdue the woman. Then he stands up, looks at Lu Laodao and sighs. I'm really sorry. It's all because of me. The old Daoist was not as happy as before. A few words are on the tip of his tongue but he can't say them. In the end he only says, sigh. It's nothing. The two of them are silent for a while. Lu Laodao then looks at Li Yunxin. Has anything happened recently? Of course, there are a lot of things happening recently, but Li Yunxin knows what he is talking about. The old Taoist heard him talk about the study of the mind. Although it was only a short month, he already had some understanding. He feels that Li Yunxin's mood is a little strange, not the brother Xian of the past. Li Yunxin is slightly startled, then smiles gently. You have sharp eyes. There are some things. But it's my own internal cause, it has nothing to do with others. It's probably enough for me to fight in my heart. At most, I hypnotize myself. These words are said lightly, but Lu Laodao knows that things may not be so simple. However, he also knows that Brother Xin doesn't want to talk about this topic anymore, so he doesn't say it. It's something else. There were a lot of people just now I can't say. Li Yunxin stretches out his hand and takes out a talisman. Immediately an invisible force envelopes the two of them. He waits for a while and then says, the young master of the Yu family, I don't think he is an ordinary person. So it's good that he is leaving. I am not in the mood to solve the mystery now. Barside. Sanhua. He looks at Lu Laodao. You know how I met her. That night in Mrs. Sanhua temple, I know that an expert once made a real body for her. The technique also looks like someone from the painting school. But she said she can't remember anything. Her cultivation is higher than the sheriff's pheasant. But look at the sheriff's way of talking. If you don't look closely, you just think she is an ordinary woman. Sanhua is very different. Now I found a body for her, but she still talks the same, incoherent. I don't think this is what she used to look like. Li Yunxin pauses, and that night in the alley she killed 2 Taoist priests of the same realm. She is not an unorthodox person. She should have been fighting a lot in the past, and she may even have more experience than you and me. But when I ask her again, she still says she can't remember. Lu Laodao is surprised. After thinking for a while, he says, Brother Xin said, but I think she doesn't have bad intentions. I don't think so either. I don't mean what you think. Li Yunxin squints his eyes and looks out of the window, but I don't feel at ease. Now I don't know what Hong Yang is thinking, and I don't know what kind of past Sanhua has. The only person I can trust is you. I will do what I said before, but I hope you can stay here and watch these people. Maybe they didn't mean to do anything, but I don't know if they don't know some things. After this disaster, I have to figure out these things. That you're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.